we all know is more than words. It is the foundation of learning, communication, and cultural identity. Today's lecture on language use in Ghanaian classrooms, ideals and realities, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, challenges us to reflect on how language shapes educational outcomes and the future of this nation. Now, as we engage with distinguished speakers, I urge upon you all that we involve ourselves in this discussion, inspire fresh insights, meaningful dialogue, and practical solutions for improving teaching and learning in Ghana. Welcome once again, and I pray that before we leave here, we will have fresh insight, ideas that will change our perceptions and our views about language. Thank you all very much. We would like to begin this very important public lecture with a prayer. Shall we welcome Reverend Dr. Martin Owusu to usher us to the throne of mercy. I believe we can do it better for him.
Thank you. Shall we humbly be on our feet as we pray? Let's all together pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thy is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. You may sit.
A round of applause for Reverend Dr. Martin Owusu. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I humbly request that we all be upstanding one more time as we sing together the University of Cape Coast Anthem. Thank you very much. You may resume your seat. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the welcome address, and I have the privilege to invite the Dean for the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education, Professor Eric Mensah, to welcome us. Shall we meet him with a round of applause?
Thank you, Nana and Chibosiako. Distinguished guest speaker, Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo, the Provost of the College of Education Studies, represented by Professor Christine Edu-Yeboah, the Dean of SEDO, Deans of Faculties in the College of Education Studies, former Deans of FoHSSE, the Vice Dean of FoHSSE, Professor Bernard Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo, Heads of Department in FoHSSE, special guests, Professor Vincent Asamfo, Director, DAPCA UCC, Regional and Metro Directors of Education, Heads of Senior High Schools, senior colleagues present, colleagues, students, my friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Well, I was hoping we'll have more numbers, but we've been having some discussion on the high table, and it looks like the students will come, but they'll come late. For that one, we know. Two, although first-year students are now writing exams, examination is examination for all students. So the continuing students are also in the examination fever, so we understand. But hopefully, before the keynote speaker comes in, we will have some more numbers for us to engage in this fruitful discussion. It's my single honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the faculty's second public lecture. Today's lecture is themed Language Use in Ghanaian Classrooms, the Ideals and Realities. And I must say that if you monitor what is going on in the media, in the news, Professor Christine Edu-Yeboah is a language expert, English education. And the others who are here, the discussant will come later after the keynote speaker himself. And if you monitor the media space, you realize how there is a whole debate going on. Well, we have a language policy. Which language are we using? Which language should we use in our classrooms? From what level and at what level and all that. And I think that as a faculty that looks at, contributing to educational discourse, debates, etc., this theme addresses a subject that lies at the heart of teaching and learning and national development. Language is not merely a medium of communication. It is a vehicle of knowledge transmission, cultural identity, critical thinking, and social interaction. The language choices made in our classrooms significantly go a long way to influence learners' academic achievement, participation, engagement, confidence, and the overall educational experience. In Ghana, language in education policies have long sought to balance the promotion of indigenous languages with the practical realities of multilingual society and the role of English as an official language. While policy ideals advocate the use of learners' mother tongue, particularly in the early years of school, classroom realities often present a more complex picture, and we hope to get this picture today. Teachers, learners, parents, and educational stakeholders continue to navigate challenges relating to policy implementation, linguistic diversity, resource availability, and social perceptions about language and educational success. The public lecture, therefore, provides a timely platform for critical reflection and scholarly dialogue on these issues. It offers us an opportunity to examine the gap, if there is any, between policy aspirations and classroom practices, and to explore evidence-based strategies that can enhance teaching and learning outcomes in our classrooms. As a faculty committed to excellence in teacher education, educational research, and community engagement, we believe that conversations such as this are essential in informing policy, improving practice, and contributing to national development. We as a faculty are therefore particularly delighted to have with us distinguished callers this morning, practitioners, policy makers, people who are implementing these policies we're going to have here today is going to go a long way to improve language use and language policy implementations in our classrooms. Once again, I warmly welcome you all and wish us that we have a fruitful and enlightening lecture. Thank you very much.
Shall we do it one more time for the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education? Prof, thank you very much for that insightful welcoming address. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of introducing our chairperson for this very important public lecture. Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboah is a distinguished Ghanaian educationist, researcher, and professor at the Institute of Education, University of Cape Coast. She currently serves as the Dean of the School of Educational Development and Outreach, SEDO, where she provides strategic leadership in advancing teacher education, educational research, professional development, and educational outreach initiatives. She previously served as director of the Institute of Education, contributing significantly to curriculum development, teacher preparation, and educational policy in Ghana. Professor Eduyeboah obtained her professional doctorate in education from the University of Sussex, United Kingdom. Over the years, she has built an outstanding academic reputation through her teaching, supervision, and research in teacher education, higher education, English language education, educational quality, equity and access, gender studies, and educational policy. Her work has influenced educational practice in Ghana and beyond through collaborations with international institutions and organizations, including projects hosted by the University of Sussex, Hiroshima University, and other global research networks. She's an accomplished scholar, and Professor Eduyeboah has authored numerous peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapters, and technical reports on teacher preparation, higher education, language instruction, educational access. To list it all, I might be losing my breath. Now, beyond her scholarly achievement, Professor Eduyeboah is widely respected for her commitment to mentoring young academics, strengthening teacher education, and promoting excellence in educational leadership. Now, through her leadership at the University of Cape Coast, she continues to champion innovative educational practices and evidence-based policies that enhance learning outcomes and support educational development. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, shall we welcome Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboah, our chairperson for this public lecture.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm humbled. I looked like all that was said was not me. But anyway, it's in the books, so I can only accept it. Thank you very much. And maybe I can stand on the protocol already established and want to welcome especially our esteemed guest speaker, Prof. Sekyi-Baidoo. Thank you for coming and welcome to the University of Cape Coast, your own. And ladies and gentlemen, I can just say I accept to chair and sit. But I would like to share a few words with you. They talked about me being in language. First, it was the dean. He said I'm an expert in English language. I'm not an expert. I will explain. Well, I started my education here at UCC. I'm in first degree, doing French and English. And I should even start from my first encounter with language. I started in a village school, going from primary 1 to 4, top of my class. And because they said the little star that was shining in the village must move to a big city, from the village where I used to walk barefooted, I was moved here, University Primary, where the children of the very elite were. I didn't understand English. I couldn't speak English. And they moved me from my class 4 straight to class 5 because I was a star. I was always top of my class in the village. And here I was, bottom of the class, because I couldn't speak English. And everything that was said in the classroom sounded like Greek. I didn't understand anything that was going on. And those days, Ghanaian language, I don't remember hearing the use of Ghanaian language at the University Primary at the time. Then they added French. So you can imagine. Well, I sailed through. Thankfully, I loved reading. So I was always reading books, and that is how I polished my English. And that is how come I can stand before you today speaking English. Then I entered university and I did French and English. And those days, if you've heard stories about French, maybe those stories are still around, where one struggles to go through French. If my mates, those of us who did, and for you to do French and English, it was a daring, how do I say it? Adventure. Daring adventure. So a lot of my mates passed through without even a pass. And they graduated without even a pass. Should I say they graduated? Well, they attempted to graduate without even a pass. And then I continued. So you can imagine what I would do with French, because it was French that made me struggle. So I stuck to English language. I was teaching English education at a training college after university. And that was where I actually understood what it meant to use English or any language for that matter to teach in a Ghanaian classroom. Because then, in a training college, you prepare students to go to the basic school to teach. So you taught them how to teach every subject. And it's surprising students are not here. Maybe the language, the concept in our topic today didn't feel like important to them. So students who may teach the courses in your faculty, teaching, accounting, and management and so on, they think language is not important to them. They forget that it is English language in many cases. Since we do secondary education, in secondary school, you use English to teach. And it is the English language you will use to teach your accounting. It is your English language you will use to teach your management. So it's surprising they didn't find this important. I just pray that they will make time and come. My last experience, let me share it and then I'll sit down. Last year, I encountered a young guy from a Galamsey site who wanted to better his lot. He wanted to improve himself. So with the money he had gathered from Galamsey, he came to UCC and he was doing accounting. He was good at accounting, but in lectures, you have to do presentations. He couldn't speak English. So I remember the time I was at the university primary in class 4, class 5. He couldn't speak English. So guess what? He left. Even though he was topping his accounting, but because of language, he had to leave. He managed to do 1 full year and he left. So that is how important language use in classroom is. That is how important, and it is relevant for every subject we teach. It is relevant for every course. Even here at the university, sometimes we have to break down concepts using local language. In my class, sometimes I do. So everybody should see this as a very important topic for our time. If we want people, the children we are going to be teaching, to have this privilege of upward mobility. And so on that note, all that I have said points to the fact that I have accepted to chair this program on behalf of the Provost of the College of Education Studies. We will need your support to go through this program successfully. And I hope that you will put your phones on silent, you will not walk up and down, you will not escape. Members of faculty, you will not escape, but stay through to honor our guest speaker and also to contribute to the discussion. I want to thank you very much for your attention.
Let's do it one more time for the chairperson. Thank you very much, Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboah, for accepting to chair this very important public lecture. Now, Prof Chair, I'd like to crave your indulgence to acknowledge some important individuals who've spared time out of their busy schedule to be present. We have in our midst this morning, he's been spoken about already, Professor Vincent Asanfo. Prof is the board chair for NACA. Shall we acknowledge him? We also have in our midst Professor Bernard Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo, Vice Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education. We also have our own dean. I decided to bring him last, but I think that I want to do it before I get to the keynote speaker, Professor Eric Mensah, the dean of the faculty. We have our keynote speaker who will be dissected properly in due course, Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo. We also have in our midst Reverend Dr. Martin Owusu, Head of Department Arts Education. An incoming Vice Dean, I've been told. I think that requires another round of applause. And finally, our chairperson, Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboah. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to your attention that we are streaming live on YouTube via TVUCC. And so once you get the link, you want to share the link as well. and we have QR codes pasted around us. You can scan and get a copy of the program for today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just join us, this is the SMS Auditorium, where we're having the second public lecture for this faculty, themed Language Use in Ghanaian Classrooms, Ideals and Realities. We are almost getting there, and I would like to invite to help us introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Dorcas Pelslip. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause? She whispers that the more you clap for her. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me also stand on the existing protocol to go about my business. Our guest speaker is Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo. Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo was educated at the University of Cape Coast, where he trained as a teacher, finishing in 1989. He also undertook graduate studies at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon, and back at the University of Cape Coast. He began his teaching career at the Sunyani Secondary School, and he has, for the past 28 years, been teaching at the University of Education, Winneba. At the University of Education, Winneba, Professor Sekyi-Baidoo has been a professor for close to 20 years and has served as the dean for over 10 years. And as head of department on 3 different occasions. He has also been a member of the University Governing Council, and as Dean for International Programs, Professor Sekyi-Baidoo had the opportunity to lead the university's international collaborations, which saw him working with different foreign institutions and associations, including the European Teachers Education Network, ETN, and NAFSA. He has coordinated several international projects on the Nightingale Approach, the Buddy Project, global kindergartens, and teaching exchanges between University of Education Winneba and universities in Europe. Professor Sekyi-Baidoo has 35 years of experience as a teacher, and he has taught at different levels, the junior high, the secondary, and university in both public and private institutions. He has also facilitated workshops and delivered keynotes to different groupings of teachers. Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo is also a Christian choral musician and has served as National Director of Music and National Chairman of the Ghanaian Association of Methodist Church Choirs. He has 43 years of experience as a composer and has written close to 1,400 songs. His songs include the evergreen Nyamitaso, oh hallelujah, the one we usually call Enije Semkese, Aseda Nyina Yewoze, hallelujah Nyame, da mosumo, yeda hotinkwem. Professor Sekyi-Baidoo is a keen researcher into names and is currently constructing an encyclopedic dictionary of Akan personal names. He is married with 4 children. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker, Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much, and I hope to dwell on the existing protocol. Professor Chair and Rep of the Provost, Deans here available, and those who have to plan this occasion, especially the host Dean, Head of Department, graduate students, personnel from GES, and general public. I'm glad to be here. When I'm here, I am home because about 40 years ago, now 41 years ago, I stepped on this campus as a student. And so I'm an old man now, maybe an ancestor, actually. And I'm glad about the kind of training, attitude that this university instilled in me. Forever, wherever I am, I will admit and proclaim that I was trained at UCC. I want to thank you for the opportunity of this invitation, that of the many scholars available here in Ghana and beyond, you decided to call me to have in this discussion. I am so honored to do so and I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Prof. Chair, about 15 years ago, there was a symposium or roundtable at University of Ghana on language in education. And I was one of the discussants. I remember that one of my final comments was the fact that quite often, I said that topic we were discussing have been discussed by many people, that some of us have gained promotion. Some of us had gotten papers, some of us had gotten theses and degrees over the years, but the problem has still remained. For me, therefore, the academic sometimes decides to exploit the problems of the people so that he or she could rise. And after rising, forget about the problems which he or she used to rise. So we are very sure sometimes, quite often, we will be talking about what's in society so that we can write papers about them, we can get our promotions and get our honor and get where we want to be, but the problems will be the same. And I thought, Madam Chair, that was quite exploitative. It has not determined for us the reason why the nation spends money to train us. Not so that they get opportunity to exalt ourselves, but that we, haven't gotten up, can help society to exalt itself. And that is where I come from. And that's where I think that this university and faculties are coming from, Dean and Chair, that we use the opportunity of today, not just so that we can have some talk, but so that we can get knowledge and certain perspectives so that we can live society. That sometime to come, it will be that because from this meeting and ideas that all of us have shared, a new idea has been born, a new perspective has been born, and then the society experiencing different things. So we have here the academic and the language policy. Is it the first slide? Okay, so you see what I've done here, Prof. Chair, when the academic uses, the language is small because it's not only language, it's for chemistry, it's also for fisheries, it's for physics, it's for anything, it's for mathematics. That sometimes, quite often, we have harnessed the problems of society for our personal, professional development. That's what I said at first. Or sometimes we have also used the opportunity to find our place within the academic discourse. But that of harnessing society for society development is a bit low. So we will not very easily find which problems Ghanaian universities all of us have tried to solve in society. We have spoken about them, but after speaking about them, we go away. I can remember some time ago when KNUST invited a number of presidential candidates to come and tell what their policies on electricity generation was going to be. My idea was that is just a forum. What the university telling the country which way it must go, and how is it expecting working so that this policy from knowledge will transcend, dilute into the lives of the people, that we can solve our problems. So now I wish, Madam Chair, that we go that way. Let's get us, please. So, Madam Chair, therefore, I ask, why are we here? And our task as applied sociolinguists or applied academics will be to provide the synapse between our expertise and these real world problems. If we become proficient as accomplishing it, we may be able to actualize the reason most of us had for getting into the field in the first place, to use academic insights to address important world and human problems. And what shall it profit our studies if all the papers can come and the problems will remain? Can we please? And so, going on learning and language and learning, so much you heard from the chair and from the dean about the importance of language in learning. How do you communicate without language? For those teaching us, for our examinations, and for the work that we do from school. So education is the foundation of all learning. It's a primary tool through which we acquire knowledge. We question concepts and communicate understanding. Without it, accessing curriculums, grasping abstract rules, and building critical thinking skills are severely hindered. And we can see that it's the architectural foundation. They say that it is also the bridge, is the tool, is the mechanism. So it's like having a car, and then is the engine, and it is the transmission system, is the tires, is the steering wheel. Without it, there's nothing. And so our task today, Prof. Chair, is to look at education, language and education policy in Ghana, and have a critical look at the ideals, the gains, and the challenges, and look into the future of language and education in Ghana. And for me, looking to the future is so important. Life is lived forwards, only with lessons from the back, but lived forwards. And so that's where our attention may be. Now, language policy can be seen as guidelines of a government, which a government lays down concerning language use in a country. And it can be seen as an activity by government to promote linguistic systems. So we can read this later on, but the idea of language policy is we have language. It has so much it does to us. In America, they will tell you that at a certain level, people are employed based on their communication skills more than their technical skills. A person that goes for an interview, the person has 80% technical skill, 40% communication. Somebody has 60% technical skill, 60% communication, they'll pick that one. Because you don't work alone with other people. The ability to communicate with them and get them to fix with you is what brings strength, not your own alone. And so we come to language. And so language policy in education, the last one, we say that is a combination of official decisions, prevailing public practices relating to education and use. How do we use language in education? Could you please have our attention here? So, Prof. Chair, let us try this kind of framework to guide us once as we discuss education and language. Now, first, there should be a language. Taken for granted. And there should be a people and a culture. We will explain these terms later on, but there should be a language before there can be language education. And the language wouldn't come from anywhere from the sky. It will be amongst a people and be used by a people. And then there should be learners, without which there's no education. And there should be curriculum content, there should be educational material, there should be teachers and cultural facilitators. Now, so they want to evaluate any educational content, any policy. You're looking at all these things in education and language. What's the language? Who are the people? Connection lies between language and the people. Who are the learners? Are they ready? Are they able? What's the curriculum content? Is it designed to help language be taught, to reflect culture and the people and be used by people in a culture? And what materials do you have? And who are the teachers and the cultural facilitators? Are they ready? And breaking this down, Prof, a language should be an identified form. For education, it must be an identified form, known, developed with orthography, dictionary, grammar, made available with materials for child, adult, and for child use. So we see, before we can say a language is for education, it should be identified. And the language should be known, identified, developed, writing system, and many other things. So we may be asking, language that we are using, is it developed? Is it identified? And then we have a people in a culture. Language, as I said, belongs to a people. It functions, it occurs in a people, has life in a people. All the people speaking that language die off, that language also dies off. And so these people and the culture, they contain, so the language carries the culture and the cognitive concepts of this community. And you see, it is within the same context that people speak their ideas and they go back after getting the language. Then there'll be learners. Learners must be ready. Now, the essence of the first language, mother tongue, is not just because it's the first that you encountered, but because it is the foundation for developing your cognitive processes. So a child uses a language which he has built cognitive processes in, that becomes the foundation of learning. If a child enters a classroom and is not ready to be communicated in a language, then that language is not his first language and can be used for academic purposes. Baby. Better carry it and give it to a baker that's not working. And that's what happened with the gentleman that Prof. Chair spoke about. He had eggs, but didn't have the vehicle to carry the eggs. The same happened to her when she came to class 4 or 5 and she was blank. The language wasn't there. So there should be learners, and the learners should be ready with language. Or we should help them to get ready in language. There should be curriculum content. It has objectives, aims, content, assessments, which reflect the language. So we teach English, we teach Twi, we teach Ewe. How many of the questions do we ask in Ewe or in English? How much of instructions do we have in Ewe or Ga? It's a language, but what is this curriculum content? There's also educational materials, a very important part of it. What are the books? The books must carry the educational content. And so we are talking about the textbooks, the teacher's guide, the dictionaries, and supplementary materials, and teaching aids. But you find, Madam Chair, that whilst we want our students, our children to learn and to be taught and to learn and be adept in Ghana, the children go online and the games and the cartoons that they have access to, none of them is in Ghana. The parent that doesn't have time to talk with the children very often. We are working so hard. But the child has 2 or 3 hours sometimes with the tablet. And the child is speaking with people in English. So the child may have 1 hour of interaction with the parents, but 3 hours of interaction in English. It becomes an issue. And then, so what are materials? And what are we doing as people to help our children get materials? And then the cultural facilitators, the teachers who know the language and who are prepared to lead the children through the language to encounter knowledge and to encounter life beyond knowledge, to encounter the culture. Important things. So we ask ourselves, are our teachers ready with the language? And are they able to get to the children the knowledge that we are talking about? And are there material that they will use or they know how to use? So we'll not go through this, but just to tell you that it's been a lot of attempts at language policy. And when you see people going back and forth language policy, when you have a nation, this is number 10, this is number 15. These are all issues about, policies about language in education. Sometimes English, sometimes use Ghanaian languages. At the time that Gettysburg himself, the white man, was insisting that we use Ghanaian languages, many of Ghanaian people were saying, no, we want to water down the content quality of our knowledge, of our learning. We want to use English. And it's been back and forth. We announce, somebody comes to change. If you have a system where policy about language changes often and often, it means that there is a big problem. We need to sit down. Once we are the same people and our destiny is the same, what we want to do with the language must also be solid and consistent, not up and down. So we'll not go through all these things, but just to tell you that so many formal attempts have been made at language policy in the classroom. When you start changing your shirt up and down, you're wearing blue, next day you are wearing this, it means that's not too integral to your personality because it keeps changing. Is that what our language is to ourselves and to our learning? If not, then we need a more solid one. And this forum and the things that happen after must be geared towards helping to create a solid, formidable, permanent perspective towards language in education. Now, Prof. Chair, I want us to talk about stages of language use. Now, language is used for cognitive development and socialization. So at home, the child learns to use language for this. The child understands this through language. The child knows how to read people through language. The processes of thought are all done with the language. So from even age 1 upwards until we get even the lexical age, the child has so much vocabulary. That's what language does to us. The second one is the inception of formal learning. When we come to school and you say, bo, a, ba, k, a, ka, and the child is learning. That is where language is used. Some languages that were used for the cognitive development may not be the languages for inception of formal learning, and that can be a problem. Continuity is best. But the third stage is language for stabilized learning. There's no off. And so that's what we do in Ghana. Use 1 to 3 from KG to 3. Use that for inception of formal learning. But when you have done that and you are now stable in learning from class 4, stop it, because you have come to actual learning. Drop Ghanaian language and go and use that one. It means that you are there only to prepare, but not to carry. You are there to prepare, not to carry. And sometimes, and then the fourth one is the functionality of life. What could school near you now, Bobo Bra? Casaben or the Bobo Brano. So there's stage of cognitive preparation, stage of learning preparation, stage of actual learning, and then after learning, you go and work. These are different levels of language use. But arguably, the most sustaining way to treat a language is to translate it beyond educational functionality. If educational language choice is just so that you can begin learning, but that you can't do the actual learning with it, that you can't work with it, that is only to begin, then as soon as the functionality changes, it means that the value of that language is also changing. So we are quite often will say that, yeah, go to Japan, they learn in their language, L1, they are doing well, but it doesn't end in L1. The use of that language is not just for cognitive development, it's for schooling to the highest level, and it's for work. But once you tell me that this language is okay up to class 3, after that, just turn it into ordinary something and use this one to learn, it means that it is only for preparation. And so this is some kind of fatalism in our use of the L1. As a language of learning gives way to another in terms of functionality of language, its value or importance in the eyes of its users suffers. It becomes worse even when in learning is supplanted by another language in higher stages of learning. And the cultural and deeper cognitive resources that accompany language could also diminish, unless very actively sustained in some way. And so many of us here haven't learned Twi or Ga beginning class 1. We cannot make 5-minute presentation in Ga. You forget what, million cry, I can't say, million, bravery, your word is saying, you forget about those ones. Because we have dumped it somewhere, we're going forward. But we said, unless very actively sustained in some way. And so, Madam Prof Chair, we want to then explore what is it that we are doing per the framework that we established. How far are languages selected to reflect the different L1 situations? There are about 80 languages in Ghana. How many of them are selected? And if the L1 is the foundation of a person's cognitive stability, are they all being used? If not, what happens to the other language, the children whose L1s are not being used? How far the language developed? Do we have the necessary content? And what is the attitude towards these languages? Do we love that we are learning in Twi? Many parents will say, yeah, my bank school or uncle Twi and the crowd school has uncle Twi. Now teacher out of Twi is same. Come not if you mention what it. Sometimes there's some sequentiality or simultaneity that we use one and change to the other, or that we use the two side by side. But how is this catered for? In our teaching of English or Twi, have we taught the children very easily, the students very easily, how to translanguage effectively? Or are the teachers supposed to get the skill when they are confronted with the things in the classroom? How are these catered for? How smooth is it? How workable is the unsuitable, is the inception or the shift? How workable is it? And about the culture and the people, is there enough community to have to base the language? Is there a community to base the language? What the attitude of the people to the language? Does the linguistic culture support development of learning through the language? What are the churches and sports and art doing? Are they adding to language, or are they certain they are somewhere? But you go to my church now, and I will be mentioning the use of Fanti is diminishing. Apart from the song, the Fanti hymns and Methodists, which were sung some time ago, the people now can pronounce and read the Fanti hymns very easily. How far do we expect the culture to contain our language and transmit it? Right? Something wrong? Hello? Okay. Now, educational resource. Are there enough textbooks for language of instruction? And do the resources use language of instruction? Now, we say, for instance, that teach in Ghana from class 1 KG, but is the maths book in Ghana? Is the cultural studies book in Ghana? Environmental studies book, is it in Ghana? So how can it be language of instruction, but not language of content, curriculum content? You can use it to talk, but after writing, please sit somewhere. Let your big brother come and do that one. Are there readers to help? Are there online resources to help? Long ago, decades ago, we had the Bureau of Ghana Languages publishing. You could go anywhere and get books in Fanti and Ghana and Ewe. Are they available now? Do you have them? If you don't have them, what is the child's experience with language beyond the teacher talking to him in the classroom? And then, are there enough teachers, facilitators? Are they proficient enough? But we may find sometimes that we are teaching our students the linguistics of the language, but not ensuring all the time that they have the proficiency. Now, when I come to the classroom, what my students learn from me, therefore, is the proficiency, not my grammar knowledge. Not how I can answer and pass the sentence and divide it into parts. It's how proficient I am. And that's what the basis of my translanguaging, if it's possible. How sufficient, how ready are the teachers? What is their number? Do you have enough numbers to do this? Are they trained to combine languages instruction? Are they sound culturally? Because the languages will contain our cultural understanding and philosophy. Do they have it? And are they where they must be? Was trained in Twi. He's a Twi speaker. Is he teaching in Nandom? Or teaching where he must be teaching? Prof, so much has been done, and I don't want to borrow our minds with this. So much has been done on the language policies over the times, and so much has been done advocating the use of the L1. So much has been done assessing the policy as it is now. So much has been done on, some people are talking about returning to English, and some are talking about attitudes of parents. So much has been done. The research that we have done as I said earlier, some of these things, we know the answers. They have just helped us to get a paper or two and to get our voice be heard. And once we finish that one, we finished. But the construction of papers in language policy perspectives, advocacy, and policy assessment and parental values is meaningless unless it's led upon a total understanding of how we can use all these opportunities to advance the practicalities of languages in the classroom and beyond the classroom to work and to life. And so, Prof. Chair, as we talk about the policy and all this, there's a cultural reality. The reality is that English is hitting our children everywhere, especially when it comes to especially in the urban areas, physically, virtually. English hitting them everywhere. That's the problem. And parental skill and interest, proficiency in Ghanaian languages is declining due to migration, urbanization, and higher education. Many of us can't speak our local languages effectively as parents. Many of us even speak English to our children at home. Many children learn table before they know a pono. Many children learn Monday before they later get to know that Monday is said in Chi as Joada. Many children know name before they know its ding. And several children know name but never know its ding because the parents themselves have forgotten. That's a big problem. Many of us here, our chi, our gan, our ewe is declining. And then now, Madam Chair, English is replacing and pidgin are becoming the easy language among friends. My son and my daughter, they meet and sometimes they are talking pidgin. Long ago, when I was in school here, the ladies didn't speak pidgin. Now they are speaking pidgin. I did a research on pidgin, and at the time I was doing the research initially in 1996 or so, I went to Agyei Hall, stood there for a number of days, didn't hear much pidgin, except for visitors, male visitors who were there. When I did some follow-up something in 98, the ladies there were speaking pidgin. So my children, fanciful, akanfo, I was here, can pidgin number of. That's how come English is inundating us. Now many children, many of your youth attend charismatic churches. The language there is English. Duncan Williams preaches in English, and Mensah in English. And so the churches that our youth want to go. And in fact, our own pastors in our Methodist churches have also gone English. And Pentecost Church used to be quite Ghanaian language, but it is establishing English congregations. And now if you ask somebody, spell me Aduane, he will say Aduane. A-D-U-A-N-E, Debbie. Aduane. I'm not hitting. Hello. It's a bit frozen. Some challenge here, please. Can you assist me? Are you checking that for me? Okay. Yes, here. That's okay. No, go. Yeah. So thanks so much. There's learning knowledge, and sorry for the hold up, of culture. We are teaching, some of you are trying, but you don't understand the Ghanaian language's culture. The Ghanaian culture you don't understand. And we start sometimes we want to find ways of explaining the things by ourselves. We don't understand. Many of us don't understand things in our own culture. We may speak language basically, Gan or Ebe or Gurine, but the culture which is the foundation aspects of a language, we don't know. And sometimes our language is a bit getting light, so light. And this picture is quite urban. But the fear is that there are more people living in urban areas than rural areas. And we know that school enrollment is 55% in, if you take all those in school in Ghana, 55% about in urban areas and 45% in rural areas. And the completion rate is higher in urban, which means that we have a big problem on our hands in the Ghanaian languages if things are as they have been. And Madam Chair, there's also the academic reality. In rural settings, on-setting with L1 is very successful. The children know Eve, they know the Bani. But shifting to English often becomes a problem. You do class 4. Ofrinokrasi, or by university primary, or shifted to English, akoyasem. And then in some rural areas, L1 takes precedence after basic 3. So how would they get to know the English language? What is it that we can do? In urban centers, starting with L1 is largely problematic. So the people go and learn English and later on do classroom learning of Chi. But many children learn more Fanti or Ebe in a classroom than they knew before they went to school. And then there's also a disconnect between language of textbook, as we've mentioned, and language of instruction. And the children may attend schools which don't use their L1. These are academic realities. Why does it go that way? There's a problem again. Or are you going to operate from the point for me? Yes. Okay, so the next one. Okay. Yes, so next one. Next one. Is that the last? Next one. Okay. So, Madam Chair, let's think about this. So going for what we do. And I want to say that language of education looks beyond the lesson and the learner to the country, its citizens, its languages, its culture, its present, and its future. We quite often are thinking about just the learner in class 1, KG to class 3, and that's all. But no, language of learning for learning goes beyond all this to the nation as a whole. Even our identity, even our security, all these should be catered for in language. Now, language for education policy may not achieve much unless it's connected to a larger policy for language preservation, development, and cultural preservation. Not just classroom, but the culture itself. Not culture, but the language also, all included. And once our policy just rests on the first part, we are getting lost. So language for education policy is not just a simple policy declaration. I've changed from this one. Now from today, you must use English as and so. It's a national cultural resolve. It's a mindset. It's an agenda for self-presentation and identity. And when we are not sure about our identity, our mindset, and about this resolve, we shouldn't talk about language for education. But we have to talk about it because people are learning. So we have to talk about it, but still take steps to ensure that we have an agenda. We build a national agenda, a mindset. And for me, that's the crux of the matter. Now, so, Madam Chair, in the immediate term, what could we do? We may reconsider the three use of L1 and L2 in primary school. Let's think about it. Does it have to be uniform? Should all change to English after basic 3? Don't we think that some may have to start from basic 4 or basic 5? Should it be uniform all the time? Maybe not. But we need to think about it. Think about it. In some places, maybe 6 years will be better when the children have acquired enough English. Some class 5. We have to, because now we force teachers to start. Teachers start teaching with English in class 4. There's a problem. And then we also need to be presently engaging GES and government for effective teacher posting. It should be immediate. If you ask me, Madam Chair, I think we need to do a quick assessment of teacher proficiency in L1 and English. We can do a research, baseline research, and then suggest some remedial in-service training. Because the children are in school. When the government faced the 2 shifts, and people were complaining, the classrooms are full, and what? I gave a talk to someone and says, oh, and yes, you don't want green and yellow double track. And you ban class so the rest can be free. You want your child to be in school. The government can't announce at once and classrooms will be built and will expand. You want your child to be in school and the child is growing, but the child shouldn't go to school. How does it work? And so the children are going to school, they are learning. So we need to do this at once to see, do the teachers have enough proficiency in language they are teaching? If not, what do we do? How can we help them even as they continue to teach? Are we saying that it's taken for granted they have finished school so they can teach? How do we help the maths teacher to know enough tree or gun to use? How do we help them to do that? Going further, I think that we should recommend that the next intake, the college next intake of teachers, college education should take care of teacher L1 deficiencies. And that there should be engagement on strategic translanguaging. How do we train our teachers to combine 2 languages? We need to sit down. I don't know myself. Let's all sit down, academics, professionals in the classroom, do thinking, get a framework, and train teachers to do professional, effective translanguaging. And then can we engage with government on a general advocacy on language in education? Can we start this immediately? Because our children are in school and they are growing. Next slide. Is that the next? Okay, the short term. In the short term, Prof. Chair, I am suggesting that we advocate for regional languages, or zone languages. And this reduce, you see, we have about 80 languages. we can't print books in all. If we reduce them to regional languages, we may be better able to print books for all of them. And so that this one production material in the immediate term, short term, we should work towards producing materials, get the mass book in Ghana, get people to sit down to translate Nkontembuo in Ghana, and Nkontembuo and so and mountain and what and history, those things in language. We will not do all of them at once. We can start from some time and go forwards, and by some time all our subjects in class 1 will be taught, our class will be taught in languages possible. And then can we work for the introduction of Ghana languages as compulsory subject in SHS? Prof. Chan, when SHS policy, it was SSS, Ghana languages was compulsory. And people who wanted training colleges needed to have Ghana language. After some time, it was not compulsory anymore. You see, we are training people who go and teach in the basic schools, and they will use L1 to teach. But L1 training at the secondary school is not compulsory. So we need to work on those things in a short term. Next one. In a medium to long term, we should firm up these regional and zonal languages. And that we will see the kind of suggestions I've tried to give. And then we should back this up with some local languages. Now, if you go to India, in the original policy, a person may grow up with about four or five languages. English, Hindi, general, and then your regional language, your district language, and then maybe your home language. Children can learn many languages at the same time once they are fed with these languages. So pick, for instance, for somebody in say, Ekwapim, use Ekwapim on the regional or zonal language, but his Guan is also there. Can that be an regional language for him so he doesn't lose it? And then develop our languages for technical use. As I said, translate these terms into Chi, into Ga, into Ebe. Let's use them. Develop textbooks in regional and zonal languages. And let's develop more audiovisual materials, the cartoons and the what and what. Now, life has considerably left the physical space onto the internet space. And we must understand that our children, the phone is very attractive. Sometimes we complain, just children can't understand literature. And I say, but when they see the cartoons, you don't understand the cartoons. Yes, it means that we have to shift our focus a bit. What they want is not what we want. We should navigate the two. Now, we should also implement the use of regional languages functionally in governance. So why can't the regional minister of Ashanti region use Ashanti? How regional minister of Volta region, why can't he use regional language of Ebe? So that we know it's important. In a court of law, it's English, but it's only translated by somebody. Why can't we use Ebe also in the court of law? Because once you don't use it, it means that it's not very important. It can only carry, but it cannot keep. And, hello. And some helpful strategies as we do all these is cultural advocacy. Prof. Chair, the need to use local languages for cultural identity and perspective must be established in our lives, in our minds. We must advocate for it culturally. And as academics, we should talk about it, engage government, and everywhere, let it be in the minds of the people. And Prof. Chair, let's have the traditional leaders at the center. Politicians, they look at power and they are very divisive. If we are going to have regional languages, the best agreements can be made at the level of the chiefs. When they agree, the chiefs will agree. Otherwise, they will fight. Now, can't boom. Now, regional language overcome. But if the chiefs are central in this one, we can go somewhere. Going on also, our strategies, I think that we should work up the protocol well. The language needs, policy needs a sustainable, tenacious, political, communal agenda. And politicians must be made to feel it. You know how in the last elections, we made Galamsey a topical issue? And the government at the time felt the heat. We made also the LGBT issue. That's the level we must push language in education. The government must feel the heat and to think that its own continual occupation of power depends on its clear response to these things. Otherwise, the decisions of use English was a matter of convenience, not of thought, not of anything, convenience. And then we should perhaps work towards getting a national agenda. We can't do that alone, but we have a force of communication. If we do so, we can get the whole people to be with us, and they can be a national timetable. We'll get the regional languages by this time. We can produce half of the things in local languages by this time, and by this time also regional or district assemblies should be able to use this regional language for communication, and so on and so forth. And then there should be pragmatic attention to these, even there should be attention to oracy and proficiency. Now many people are doing Chi or Ewe, whose Chi oracy is itself a bit suspect. Some are doing Gan. Their Gan oracy is suspect. Let our training attention go to oracy in addition to a linguistic knowledge. Kasa is so you should speak well. That's how you can inspire the people. And then we should also ensure as investors that we give it attention, have time for it. Sometimes vote some money to help the activities of promoting the first language and things about language learning, help it to grow. Where our heart is, our money may also be there. So concluding, before I do so, Madam Chair, it's not because the policy has failed, but because there's challenges. Can you imagine if there was no policy like everybody must use Ghana languages for the first 3 years? By this time, many of our children wouldn't know any. If the policy didn't say that they must change to English, perhaps by this time somebody who is in JS2 wouldn't be able to speak even one sentence in English. So the policy is good foundationally, just that you must build upon. But finally, as I close, Madam Chair, I want us to remember what we said earlier, that our task as applied academics is to provide this link between our expertise and real world problems. If we become proficient at accomplishing it, we may be able to actualize the reason most of us had for getting into the field of mathematics, of English, of geography, of economics, of whatever in the first place. That will use what we have done, we have gotten to solve the actual problems in the world. And with this, I say thank you. Ape.
Ubetimi ase abo nsemo bio. Thank you very much, Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo, for this thought-provoking, and I'm sure we're all thinking about it. And I remember a parent escorting a son to school, and the boy was getting close to the road, was actually entering the road. And I'm sure the parent wanted to ask the boy to stop. And the woman started by saying that, Kojo, stand. And Kojo was still going. Kojo, stand. I'm sure the vehicle was not functional, isn't it? Another round of applause for Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have been sitting for far too long. We would want to stretch our legs, stretch our minds with some soothing music. We have a songstress in our mix, by the name Adelaide Pokua Agyei. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause?
Please, good afternoon. I'm here to minister one of the songs of Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo, and it is titled Yeda Ho Tinkwem. So please kindly join me as we sing this song. Thank you. Yeda Ho Tinkwem wa ne wa do marako. Yeswe wona woya zingnaye. Way me free musomo. Way me free esan mo. Wa mama ni menwasio. Onyame wa yemye. Ne wa doye. Doso Yeda Ho Tinkwem wa ne wa do marako. Yeswe wona woya zingnaye. Way me free musomo. Way me free esan mo. Wa mama ni menwasio. Onyame wa yemye. Ne wa doye. Doso Asidanya ye chom. Na ye di bema wo. Say a share dia waya. Yes, we were dom doso. Anon to minka. Wadoye so. Wadoye ye wawa. Ye bekaza waye. Amamanyi nato. Ye beto hallelujah. Amawudin denina. I see the rewa yem yeso. Wunkuto na ya danwo. Onyame wa yem ye. Ne wa doye. Doso Ye bekaza waye Amamanyi nato Ye batu hallelujah Amawuzinde nyina Asidare wa yem yeso Wunkuto na ya danwo Onyame wa yemye ne wa doye doso. Onyame wa yemye ne wa doye doso. Thank you.
Another round of applause for our dear lady Adelaide Pokoa Agyei. Prof Chair, it's quite difficult when you want to attempt a song and you have the composer seated right in front of you. Shall we give another round of applause? Prof Chair, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Professor Foster Into, Prof as the Director CTS. Thank you for passing through. Now, it's now time for the discussion segment of this public lecture. And I would like to invite Dr. Dorcas Pearl-Slip one more time. She's going to lead the discussion and she'll be introducing the discussant. Shall we welcome her with a round of applause? Another round of applause for her.
Thank you very much. Let me take a seat. Okay. All right. It's time for the panel discussion, and we have men and women. We have the men and the women who are experts in the area and in other sectors related to language and language education. We have in our midst Dr. Gertrude Efiba Torto. Please join me upstage. When they are also here, I'll let them introduce themselves. 2 are here, they'll join us in person. 2 will also join us via Zoom. Thank you, Madam, welcome. We also have Dr. Alex Adobabansa with us. A round of applause, please. We'll have Dr. Peter Antipate also joining us via Zoom, and Dr. Ivy Kesewa Nkrumah also joining us via Zoom. Let me go closer. Please, a round of applause. Welcome once again. I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves so we get into the discussion.
I'm Gertrude Efiba Torto, Department of Basic Education. So I would say I train teachers or prepare them for the basic school level.
I'm also Alex Adobabansa, currently at University Practice Senior High School, teaching English language, preparing students for the Department of Art Education.
Okay, thank you. When we have a signal that our other discussants are also with us online, we'll invite them into the discussion. I have this opening question for both of my discussants. So you are in the classroom, you are into training the teachers who move to teach in the classroom. I have this question. Would you say that language used in our classrooms is driven more by policy, by pedagogy, or practical necessity? And for whichever stance you take, my question is, why do you say so?
Okay, I would say that currently our language in education policy is driven by policy to some extent. Then the realities on the ground is showing. Why will I say this? When we go to the various senior high school, which I'm currently working there, as we said, most of our students are unable to understand issues in English language unless sometimes you translate them into
the Ghanaian languages. And in a situation where you have diverse students in your classrooms, it becomes very difficult to speak a particular local language that all of them will understand. So in Prof's submission, he was mentioning a very important issue where you have students that have multiple languages in the classroom. Which of the Ghanaian language are you going to use so that they will understand you? So basically, sometimes the few ones who understand what you are delivering will try in a way to help their other friends to understand, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So practically, these are some of the things we see in the classroom.
Okay, thank you for your
All right,
submission.
thank you. I would say that the language policy, the language in the classroom is mainly driven by policy, to a large extent by policy. I have visited many classrooms in the central region and then elsewhere in the north. And then when you get to the classroom at the lower level, that is KG through to basic 3, teachers are using only their mother tongue. And the mother tongue they are using is the dominant language spoken in the area where the school has been established or is located. You will never hear anything English unless maybe there's going to be some reading. But most cases, it is the language policy that the teachers want to abide by. When you question them, I've been on several occasions, I have spoken with the teachers, and they say that that is the language policy that we are supposed to use. So whether the children understand it or not, they are supposed to go by the language policy. And it's in those classrooms, you realize that teaching learning materials are even absent. And so if the teacher is using English, maybe it is primary 4, and the teacher is using only English, the teacher is not integrating any teaching resource in the lesson. And so it becomes very difficult for the learners to understand. To some extent too, in a few classrooms, I have realized that the teachers think that the children do not understand anything in English. And so they try to translate whatever they say in English, they translate into the local language. And this local language is the dominant language used in the school. That is the school language, without thinking about children who have come from elsewhere, who have just joined the class, who may be different language speakers. So this is what I have also realized in the school. Like when it comes to pedagogy, it is still the language policy that is driving the way the teachers teach. This is what I have to say.
Well, so then my next thought is, if it is the policy and the teachers are the ones in the classrooms implementing the policy, should it then be that the teachers who are in the classroom should adapt the policy to reflect what they have found to be what works in the classroom, or they should try, I don't know, what should they do? What should teachers now do? Because the policy is a binding document. And then in the classroom, it seems to be the reverse of what the policy is prescribing to be the needed thing to do. So then, what do we do?
If you consider the English language curriculum, it is stated there, especially the basic 1 to 3 curriculum, it is stated there that the learners should be able to communicate in both English and in their mother tongues. And so the teachers, if they are familiar with the curriculum, they should know that both languages are needed. Both languages, because the children must understand the content that is being taught well. And then we know that we are preparing learners, and at the end of the day, they are going to write examinations. All examination questions are set in English. And so the learners should be able to understand the question that has been set in English. And unless maybe later we decide to set questions in the local languages. But so far as questions are being set in English, the learners should be able to answer questions in English. And so the teacher should be able to use both languages in instruction. They are supposed to use both languages in instruction so that the learners will be able to grasp whatever is being taught and then use it in learning other concepts, because we need to teach across the curriculum, transfer of learning across the curriculum. So if they understand one concept in a particular area, they should be able to transfer. So I think that the language use should be, the teacher should be able to blend both languages in instruction to help the learners.
I have a follow-up on that.
Okay.
You train the teachers to go and teach, and this is your suggestion. We collected data from teacher trainees, and one question was, had they received any education? Had they been trained to use translanguaging? Have they been given any education on how to train multilingual learners? I don't want to take what the participants said to hold you up on your response. But my question is, are you preparing the teachers who are entering the classrooms? Are you preparing them adequately for the tasks ahead of them?
Yes. So to speak for myself, because I'm not the only teacher trainer in the country, sure. To speak for myself, yes, we do. We prepare the students who are going to be teachers on how to teach using language. And so translanguaging comes in. We prepare them on how to use translanguaging, how to integrate pictures to help learners understand, how to integrate digital literacy, ICT tools in helping learners to understand the concept. And then we also prepare them that if you are teaching and the learners are not understanding the content, there is nothing wrong, no matter the level. There is nothing wrong restating what you have said in a language that learner understands. We understand that in our classrooms, we have different learners coming from different language backgrounds. And so, if the teacher cannot speak the learner's language, I'm sure there will be someone in the classroom who may be able to translate what the teacher has said in a particular language, or the pictures can help. The picture that we integrate in our lessons can help. So yes, for me, I am training my teachers on translanguage, and I'm training them how to use language in instruction across all learners in the classroom to help everyone understand what is being taught.
I'm glad you have said so, and I'm glad you are saying you do, because you teach at you prepare teachers for the basic level, and that's our foundational level. Yes. Let me come to you, Dr. Adabobansi. You are the secondary school, and because you are a practicing teacher, I want to ask you, I want to put you under the light a bit. Do you see that teachers at the secondary school deliberately plan their lessons using multilingual instructional strategies, bearing in mind that the learners, although they are at the secondary school, perhaps at their maturity level, cognitive level, language development level, might be at emergent literacy. Sometimes they are even at the early production stages. Do you implement these strategies there, or do you assume that at the secondary school they should be proficient to a certain stage, so you go monolingual?
Thank you very much. Actually, the curriculum does not tell teachers to plan lesson using these two languages, or the L1 plus the L2. At the secondary school, the focus is on the L2. But in practice, what we normally do is, you have prepared your lesson. You've gone to the class to deliver. Here lies the students who are unable to understand, or they are finding it difficult to understand what you are explaining. So in order to drum home your point, you try as much as possible to do a bit of translation or translanguaging in order to make sure your students understand what you teach. One problem we have, and I'm not blaming anyone, is that normally when we are developing curriculum, instead of us to pick practicing teachers on the ground to be part of those who are designing the curriculum, we normally overlook that aspect. And I believe if all these are being done, some of us who are in the classroom practicing will bring out some of these issues that even at the senior high school, we still have students who are unable to manage only the English language. And for that matter, we should have that blend. And I believe when we do that, it will help.
This brings in a dimension that I want to chip in. How do we talk about this bilingual education, even if it is subtle? How do we talk about it? How do we go about it in an educational context where we are assessing students all the time in the English language across subject areas, from the language classroom to the mathematics classroom? Everything is in English. So how are we? Let me narrow it to the English language classroom. We are teaching English and assessing in English. If the students are not understanding, we want to switch. We are helping them to think in the L1. But they are being assessed in the English language. There's no provision like that for them during exam. So are we doing them good or we are not?
We shouldn't forget the fact that we are not just training students for examination purposes. We are also training them to fit within our society. And as Prof, the keynote speaker, said, language is also a preserve of our culture. So if we always think about, because of exams, whether the student will understand whatever we are teaching or not, we are forcing the English language on them. We are likely to have students who at the end of the day, they will try their possible best to pass the exams, but they become culturally misfit. So I believe, in as much as we are preparing them, they will write exams to pass, we should also think about how our culture will be preserved and produce students who can fit well within our culture so that they wouldn't be misfit. And I believe when we think that way, we wouldn't be always focusing on English only instruction. You will focus on that as well as how best our students can fit within our culture and know what's Ghanaian than always relying on English, and at certain point in time we become alien within our own culture.
Okay, I'm informed that we have Dr. Peter Antipati on the line. Hello, Doc. Good afternoon. Hello, Peter. I wanted to ask a very interesting question to Peter as well, since he's also in teacher education. Peter, if you can hear me, Doc, my question is that should teacher effectiveness across levels, not just on the primary or the secondary level, even at the tertiary level, should teacher effectiveness be judged by strict adherence to language policy or by evidence that learners understand, can participate, and can learn?
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. Go ahead. I can.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thank you for your teacher effectiveness. Thank you for your teacher effectiveness. The teacher is measured on the ability that. Sorry, I can hear myself. Sorry, I can hear myself. Sorry, I can hear myself. The teachers communicate the content to the student in a manner that the students understand and appreciate. This issue of language policy has been with us for some years now. Even last year, when a report was released on the language index, Ghana seems to be doing quite a little bit well in that aspect. And the report clearly indicated that our problem is with speaking and not reading. So you realize that the students that were used for that particular study scored high when it came to reading materials. But when it came to expression, speaking, it was a little bit difficult for the Ghanaian students to perform. And that clearly tells us what the problem is in our educational system and in our classrooms. So any attempt to incorporate these practices of local language or mixed or multilingual issues within our educational system should be seen or should be looked at through that particular perspective, that we are weak when it comes to speaking, but we do well when it comes to reading. I mean, specifically for English language. And if you are going to now mix this, I mean, the local language with the English language in a classroom, then you need to ensure that you are doing it in such a way that the student will be able to, I mean, put the two together to express himself, because research is showing that the students will not have a problem with reading, but when it comes to expressing themselves, that is where the issue is. So you have to now plan in such a way that you have an implementation plan that puts reading, I mean, expressing, speaking ahead of reading. And that would enable the students express themselves in a way that would be ideal. All this depends basically on the teacher. And if the teacher is able to push this together, pedagogical wise, and with his own personal experiences and other things, I think that we will get students that are able to, I mean, do both, speak and then read, and that would improve the understanding of the content and by extension improve learning outcomes. But where we are pushing the local language alone or pushing the English language alone, then we have a problem. I also want to state that we seem to be talking about L1, mother language, and I step back and I ask myself, all those studies that have said that if you teach a child, and this is controversial, all those studies that have said that if you teach a child in the local language, the student is able to do well. I've had some debate with my roommate in the department, Dr. Tebri, on this. Have you looked at a context that these studies were conducted? In what context were these findings made? Because I can tell you that in our system, some households, the one that we are talking about. In fact, in our schools, some schools, especially in the private schools, the first language that the student is talking about is the English language. And in the 21st century, where socialization has shifted from the perspective from the household to the schools, I mean, in these times, children are taken to school as early as 6 months, 5 months. So they learn to speak, they learn how to walk, and even sometimes how to eat in the school and not in the house. And in the school, the student is exposed to the English language. So that becomes his first language, that becomes his L1. So when we talk about this and we have fixated about the local language, I think that we should pause a little and have a little understand about the dynamics of our society and how our society is changing. Because in my house, we speak English. I speak English with my kids. In most of our houses, the lecturers here, you would agree with me if we are being very frank. Most of us, 90%, we speak English with our kids. And they grow up with that particular language. A little, about 10% of us would want to expose them to the local language. So when you move to the classroom and you are saying that you are starting the child with the local language, how do you do the transition? And that is why that research that was published last year, the proficiency index for Ghana, was showed that the students are able to read, but when it comes to them expressing themselves, the transition from the local language to the English language becomes difficult for them. That we are not addressing. And we seem to be going back and still thinking about the research works that have been published and that promote local language. I will not refute that, but I would urge scholars to step back and look at the context in which these research works were carried out and make sure that we it in a way that will be fruitful for our context and for our students. Else, we will not be able to get this right. And that is why our students in the public schools are mostly timid and cannot express themselves. And then the same case when they are taken to the private schools are outspoken and they can express themselves within the same environment, within the same educational sector, within the same system, where even in some instances, teachers in these private institutions might not have the requisite qualification to train the child in a way that the child should be able to train pedagogically and content and other variables that the teacher needs to know in the teaching training field. So we should be asking ourselves these questions. At the end of the day, what is the end goal? The end goal is to make the child globally competitive. Are we able to do that? Other languages on China, all the way to our campuses. Germany, the German language is making inroads. Okay? It means that language is very important. But in our educational system, what is the acceptable mode of language that our students will be able to, move with easily? The blended approach, yes, but how are we doing it? How is the transition being done? Are we doing it right? Why is it that our students have problems with expression? Why is it that our students have problems with speaking? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves. And anybody in language would have to find solutions to this. And that begins with us, the researchers, the language people those who research into language, and more importantly, the teachers that are being trained to go and teach. If we get this right, the efficiency of the teacher to deliver the content to the understanding of the student would be there. And I think that our students would perform, whether in terms of writing or speaking the language.
I am enjoying the way you are fully active and charged for the discussion. But don't push it on the teachers who are training the educators who are training the teachers yet. I want to ask a personal question. If you had the opportunity to revise Ghana's language in education policy today, what would you change or what would you prioritize? Am I? Hello? Can you hear me, please? And then I had a second. Oh, no. Please hear me. I had one about artificial intelligence and... You can. Good.
No.
I should repeat the question. Okay, all right. I said that I am happy you are saying that we should stop viewing English and Ghanaian languages as competing alternatives and rather embrace multilingual education. I like that very much. So then I asked, if you had the opportunity to make a change, revise Ghana's language in education policy today, what is one thing you would change or prioritize?
Yes, said that the local language should be used 100% in teaching. My comment was that it is not about asking somebody to use a language to teach 100% or 50% or 20%. It's about what plans you have put in place to ensure that the delivery of the content is in line with the needs of the teacher. And the first priority will be, how can we, as a people or within the education system, ensure that we develop a language policy that is fit for purpose within our context, and at the same time make our students internationally competitive. And in doing that, I will not say that teach the students in basic 1 to basic 3, use the local language, and then when they are transitioning to basic 4 upwards, you switch to I will never do that. My point will be right from day one, if the student is able to express himself in a language that you call the L1, the teacher should use that to communicate with the students. So in a community where the students cannot speak the language, the students cannot speak the English language, the students should be taught in a language that they appreciate and they understand. In a community where the students can't speak the language but are not proficient, the teacher mix them up. The teacher can blend the local language with the English language. In a community where the students are able to express themselves, especially in urban Ghana, you should allow the teachers to to teach the students in the English language, which they understand and they can express themselves in. So we should not have that strict jacket kind of policy where we are so much fixated with the children. In China, they use the local language. In Kenya, in East Africa, they use Swahili. So when it comes to Ghana, we already have our challenges. We have issues with local language selection, which would lead into a lot of politics. Why don't we just accept what we have and then have a flexible language policy where the needs of the children determines the language to use? And that will be my approach to dealing with this issue of language being used in our educational system, right from the kindergarten to the secondary school and even the university. Because I've told you that in current Ghana, some kids learn their first language in school and not in the house. So in those schools, they are taught in English. And if you have a policy which says that teach these kids in the local language, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? We also have the problem with teacher distribution, where in recent times, the Greater Accra region, the Gadangbe language is going extinct because they don't even have people to train them in. You have all these challenges coming up. And as a person in educational policy, these challenges should address your policy development and implementation, and not because a certain kind of study in a certain part of the global world have suggested this, and therefore we should go by that. I think that should not be the way to go.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a last one for you on artificial intelligence and digital technologies supporting learning and communication.
Can you omit? I can't hear you again.
Okay. I have a last question for you. On artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I have a last question for you on artificial intelligence and digital technologies now supporting teaching and learning in many classrooms today. How do you see this shaping language education in Ghanaian schools? What are the implications of this great shift in line with teacher preparation, classroom practice, and even assessment?
Thank you very much. I'm one of those who have said extensively that AI is here to stay. You know, there were days where when you are applying for a job, you put on your CV proficient in Microsoft MS Word, Microsoft Excel and all those things. A time is coming in this global world where, employers would be asking prospective applicants to indicate their proficiency in certain AI tools. So we cannot act as if we are far away from the world. We are there. Now, AI is technically developed in the English language, as you are aware. But interestingly, there are certain apps that are coming in Ghana. I can talk of I think it's the Kaya AI and other ones that have the local language embedded in them. So where the individual teacher has the ability to access these AI that are in the local language and is proficient in understanding them, I think the teacher can use that. But you see, most of these AI platforms are in English language. So the teacher should continue to use them in the language that he understands. But in dealing with the students, the teacher should translate them to the languages that the students can appreciate and understand so that it becomes effective in the classroom. The teacher will use the AI for lesson plan. Our own Ghana Education Service and NACA, I think with the help of TTL, are now converting the lesson planner in AI format. So now teachers can go on platforms and then with 2 or 3 commands have their have their lesson plan developed for them. Okay. Now, if this is where the educational system is going, I think that one, and the ministry is pushing for the use of local languages, then I think one they should develop one for the local language. Else, every teacher would use the platform to develop lessons which would be generated in the English language. And it goes back to my earlier point. Why would you insist that the teacher uses a particular language at a particular level of the child's development? It's ineffective, it is not going to be productive, and it is not going to help the teacher in the long run, and by extension, the learner. So I think that AI should be adopted, it should be used in the classroom. If the language is in a format that the students will not understand, the duty is on the teacher to do the translation and help the students appreciate the content that have been generated by the teacher using any AI platform that the teacher is supposed to. But the teachers there, the students there, I encourage you to be proficient in an AI tool. You need to learn how to use them. You need to learn how to navigate around it so that you become competitive in the global world. The kind of lesson notes that we were taught to do. You remember you have to write your lesson notes in the notebook. In recent times, GES has approved AI platforms where teachers, by the click of a button, are able to develop their lesson notes. This is where the world is going. You cannot sit down and use 3 hours to develop a lesson note. No. What you now have to do is the teacher's ability to now deliver the content using pedagogical strategies. So now the skill is on your ability to develop, deliver the lesson using your pedagogical skills and not your ability to develop a lesson plan, because AI can do that for you. And I'm not the one who is saying it. It is GES, Ministry of Education, and the NACA people who have developed this system for teachers to use. So that is where the world is going, and we need to follow suit. We cannot stay behind and say that we want to teach in the local language, so we cannot use the AI platform. If you don't have a platform that have the local language, use the English one, and then if the teacher is able to translate it, make the student appreciate the content that you have been able to download or develop from the AI platform. That is where the world is going, and we should be progressive in our thinking.
Oh, thank you. That's a lot. And I will hand them directly to those who are doing the teacher education training and implementing their programs. So I'll go to Dr. Toto. Now that AI has entered the space and it is sitting on the doorstep of language education, how are we preparing the teachers in the system now who haven't gone out? I am sure that with the teachers on the field, the in-service teachers, I'm sure they are having their community of learning programs structured to help them bridge the gap. Those in training now, what is being done now? So he mentioned lesson planning, for instance. Are the students being trained now? Are they being introduced to the softwares, the applications, the platforms that will help them to use technology in teaching?
Right. So for those of us in basic education, currently we do not have those platforms. We have the lesson plans already prepared, and they are online. All the lesson plans are online. All you have to do is to go download and then place it in context. So we are preparing our trainers, our teachers, to download all right, but then place whatever is there in context, the context of the classroom. They should know the learners they are teaching and know how to translate what they have taken online to suit the learners in the classroom. So this is how we are preparing our teachers. I know that at the secondary level, they have these AI platforms where they click, they put in their request, they click, and even that, what comes out is contextualized. It's placed in the context of where the school is located. I have used it before, and I know that is how it is. So it is contextualized. And so this is how we are training our learners. In the classroom, when we are teaching, we even allow them to go online, do some research, and then place whatever they have found in context of a particular setting for our discussions. So this is how we are training our teachers.
So a follow-up on that one. So at the basic school level, for instance, maybe the primary school, the teacher is supposed to teach all the subjects. The teacher is trained to teach English and mathematics and Ghanaian language and religion and all of that. And that lesson planner is in English. So in planning the Ghanaian language lesson, for instance, how do they go about it?
The lesson plan for the languages are most of the time in those languages. Maybe there will be a general aspect where you will have to relate to your language that you are teaching. I'm talking about the Ghanaian languages. But if it is fancy, I'm sure that there will be some examples stated in the local languages. That is what we have in the curriculum. When you use the curriculum, some of the sections are in the local languages, and so the teachers pick it from there. Now, for other subjects such as English, mathematics, subject that we use English in teaching, of course, everything is in the English language. It is up to the teacher to now translate or to place it in the context that the learners will understand. So if the learners are coming from a background where English is difficult for them to understand, why not teach in the local language that they will understand? And of course, we don't prepare our teachers to teach everything in the local language, because the learners should learn one or two words or sentences in English. So as you are teaching and you are using the local language, yes, insert some English so that the learner will pick one or two words to take home with them. I hope I've answered your question.
Fine. It's okay. As we prepare to wrap up, I have my final set of questions for Dr. Mensah. So finally, we've been talking about policy, we've talked about teacher education, we've talked about teachers in the classroom, and we've talked about pre-service teacher training as well. I want us to look at one aspect we haven't touched on: parents and the learners. So for now, our students are both teachers in training and they are also learning. Let's take these two stands: parents and learners. What practical steps should they take in helping to bridge the gap between the ideals of Ghana's language education, language in policy for education, and the Ghanaian classroom reality?
Please, I will come to that, but permit me a few minutes to touch on some few issues Dr. Antipati raised.
That's fine.
Yeah, he was talking about a survey by Proficiency Index. And according to him, it was revealed that students were unable to express themselves. And I want to chip in this. According to the Interactionist, they believe the best way to learn a language is also to speak the language. So a child is being taught English language and the Ghanaian language as well. Do they have the environment to interact in that language? If the child does not have that environment to speak the language, then there will be difficulty for that child to express himself or herself. So that environment needs to be created. Else, we are likely to have students who can read, but they can't. And even at the university level, we have some students, when you give them opportunity to stand in front of their colleagues to present, it becomes a problem. But they are able to write. When you ask them to read, they will read. So I believe when we are to look at these things, then we will be able to have a situation where the students can read, write, speak in the language we are talking about. Then he was also talking about the fact that there are some students who have English language as their L1. And is that all the kids that we have? Some also have the L1, our indigenous language, as their L1. And as Noam Chomsky said, language is not just a tool for communication. It's also an internal cognitive tool for thinking. So a child who has that L1, or who has the L1 as the indigenous language as the L1, will be thinking in that language. So if we say, because we are in a global world and English is everything, so we should straight away be teaching our words in English language, then we are going to have a situation where some of these kids who don't have English as their L1 will be suffering. So we need to be very careful about that. Now let me come to your question. Yes, we've been talking about the policy, and it is about teachers and students or learners. Now, how do we bring in parents here? Yes, we have some parents, they think when their wards are being taught the Ghanaian language or they are being instructed in Ghanaian language, then we are watering down their education. So all of us at the basic level, we don't want to send our wards to Saito because we think over there they are going to be using the L1 to instruct them. But the moment they get to senior high school, then we want to take them from the private school to Saito Infantipim, Saito Adesada, and the so these are the problems we have. The parents themselves think when they take their children to the basic school, over there, because they will be using the L1 as a medium of instruction, their wards wouldn't be speaking English like those who are in the private school. So because of that, they prefer to send their wards to the... But if the policy is being sent down there, where all private schools will also go by the policy that from this point to this point, this is how it's supposed to be. And both students or learners in basic school and public school and private school are going by the same format. I don't think parents will feel that their wards in public school are disadvantaged, and for that matter, they should be sending their wards to private school. So parents also need to be conscientized once they get to know that this is the policy. And the policy is not just a mere say, it is backed by research, it is backed by scholarly evidence, and they understand it. I believe they will buy into some of these policies and it will be implemented to its successful end. And I believe that should be done.
And the learners, what practical steps should our learners themselves take to bridge these realities?
In as much as we want them to learn the English language, and in all the other subjects, they would also be writing their papers in the English language. Once we also help them to appreciate the fact that sometimes if you are able to think in your local language, it helps you to do well in the English language. They will also see the need to incorporate the local languages or the indigenous languages in their learning. I'm an example. When I came to UCC in 2002, I was supposed to read English, Fanti, and history. At a point in time, I realized no matter what I write in Fanti, I was scoring C+. I was learning it, but I was having difficulty writing the Fanti. So quickly I dropped the Fanti and chose history. So when we help them to know that this is the situation and whether they like it or not, it has come to stay, I believe they will be conscientized. They would condition themselves that if someone speaks Twi or Fanti or any of the local languages, it doesn't make that person an inferior student. Then they would take it seriously. But once we create an environment where they think when they speak the local languages, they are inferior to those who are speaking the English language, then they will also opt to be speaking the English language. Or if they can't speak English, they will just keep quiet. And that will be the situation.
Regarding identity, you want to add something there? Yes. Let me add this one. Regarding identity, self-identity and belonging amongst the students themselves. I also remember when we were undergraduate students, I don't know if it still happens now. Those of us who did Ghanaian languages at the university, there were some of us who didn't want to be identified as Ghanaian language students. Some were saying we are doing accounting. Some were saying we are doing linguistics. Linguistics in which language? They are quick to say linguistics, but which language they will not say. In Ga, in Ewe, in Fanti will not come. So they will be identifying themselves with anything that sounds English, and would never want to be known as people who are training to go and teach Ewe or teach Ga or Enzima. It's all in the domain of the learners. Madam, what did you want to add, please?
Yes, so with regards to what learners must do, let me also start from what Dr. Pate mentioned with regards to learners speaking Ghanaian language, and they become timid when they meet their compatriots who speak English. Now, this issue is coming from the society, coming from the teachers. At the basic school level, we are training our teachers, our learners, making them think that English is a superior language. And so if that is what we are putting in the minds of the learners, then definitely nobody would like to speak Ghanaian language, because to lift the image of our Ghanaian languages, whereby we allow the use of translanguaging in our classrooms, where every child comes with their language. Everyone will know that, oh, so my language is that important. It is not only the English language that is important, and they will carry this through to the senior high school level. So I think that the teacher has a lot to do. The community also has a lot to do. As Prof doing his presentation, some parents think that, why should I send my child to school to only go and learn Ghanaian language? But of course, that is where conscientization comes in. If parents are conscientized to realize that language is very important, the identity of the person is very important, there is no superior language, your language is also superior, then the children will carry this through, and then wherever they go, they will be bold enough to speak their languages. Please, the second question you asked.
It was a comment I made about students not wanting to identify themselves as Ghanaian language students, but Akan. If they are doing Akan, they are Akantan. Yes. Students.
Okay, so it is all coming from the community and then from teachers. We are making it appear so. So if we accept everyone's language, then why not? I can boldly speak my Nzima wherever I find myself. In the classroom, when the teacher is teaching and the teacher shows a picture of banana, and maybe the teacher may not be a language speaker of a certain group of learners in the classroom. So the teacher may ask, oh, Agyei, you are an Ewe. How do you say banana in your language? Agyei will say it in Ewe. Mensah will say it in Fanti. Mensah will say Kwedu. Another will say Impua. Another will say other language. I mean, they will say it in their various languages. Yes. And so if the child is allowed to use their language repertoires in their classroom once in a while, not once in a while, most of the time, they get to realize that our languages are important. And so we shouldn't shy away from speaking our languages wherever we find ourselves. At the same time, the teacher is also integrating some English language. And so when the child meets people who speak English, they will be able to speak the English, depending on how the teacher grooms these learners.
The guest speaker talked about zoning the languaging so that we can have regional zones for the languages. I had 3 students going on an exchange program to Germany last academic year. When they came back, I engaged them in a discussion. One thing I was looking at it from intercultural communication and competence level. So that's how the discussion went. One thing they said that really connected with what the guest speaker said was that when they were in Ghana training as teachers, they didn't see the classrooms that they were going to teach as a multilingual classroom. They are going to teach English. So they are psyched up to teach English. But when they went to Germany, what they realized was that because the host accepts and acknowledges that there are multiple speakers in the class, when they have a teaching learning material, if it is a dog that has been drawn, a picture of a dog is in English, dog is in German, dog is in Spanish, if they have Spanish speakers all of it in there. Why are we not doing same if we have a TLM? Why don't we bring the variety of languages that the students in the class can speak and write it under the label for them to identify themselves? So even if it is Chi, they are learning. There are people in the class who speak Ga. There are people in there who speak Nzema. Why don't they add it there? Or you don't teach the students all those?
We do.
You do.
So let me touch on that. So
That's it.
over here we prepare our learners to teach in such context. And so the learners know that in my classroom I may have learners coming from diverse linguistic backgrounds. And so when we are setting up a literate environment, we label everything in the classroom, and then the labeling is done in the local languages. But when you go to the field, what we realize is that the labeling has been done in English and in the dominant language of the area only, without regarding the other language speakers. And that is the challenge. But over here, this is how we prepare our learners, because we tell them that before you start teaching, if you go into a class for the very first day, before you start teaching, communicate with your learners, get to know who they are, where they are coming from with regards to their language backgrounds before you start teaching, so that you'll be able to teach to suit every learner in the classroom. So this is how we prepare them. But when they go to the field, of course, they go. Imagine you have a cup, a picture of a cup, you have written cup under, you have written core languages. They feel that it's too much. Why don't we use the dominant language in the area? And that is the challenge.
Is it because when they get to the field, they see the teachers on the field cutting corners?
Exactly. When they go to the field, they copy what they see on the field.
Dr. Adabobans,
we
come to that.
Not what we have prepared them to go and do. This is what I have realized. I have visited them when on teaching practice. When I go, I meet some of my students. I enter their classrooms. Last week, I visited a school very close to the university. I met one of my former students who is teaching. This lady is not a language speaker of the community. And the lady is found in the lower primary classroom. And you can imagine what is happening in the classroom. So these issues are there. And then when they go, of course, they have to listen to what others are doing and then do same, without bringing on board what they have been prepared with.
Best practice.
So this is what we are facing.
Okay, so I will touch on using multimodal in teaching both the L1 and the L2. When we have a situation where we have teaching and learning materials in the various languages, I think it will help. But here lies the case, even the textbook that we are using are prepared in English. So you, the teacher, all that you have to do is just to find a way of translating the English into the local language for the child to understand. But I believe going forward, as now we are incorporating ICT into our teaching, when we look at all these things, where our materials and all that are prepared in using the multimodal form, I believe the NACA chair is here. He will take it up so that it will lessen the job of the teachers. As he said, so teachers wouldn't cut corners, but they would do what they are expected to do.
All right. You have something?
Yes, just a little to add to what Dr. Aduba said. So, with regards to the languages, over here at UCC, every teacher who is being trained at the department is taught how to write a story in the local language, in the teacher's own language. And so when you are sent to a school, except that you are not sent to a school where the language is familiar to you, but if you are sent to a school where the language is familiar to you, then you should be able to prepare lesson resources in the local language. That is, if the language is familiar, you are able to prepare, or you should be able to prepare resources in the local language to help you teach. And as to add to that also, there is no, it's not an issue, or it's not a big deal for a teacher to seek support from other teachers. So if within the school you have Ewe students in the class, you are not an Ewe, you are teaching some Ewe students in your class in addition to your other language speakers, and there are Ewe teachers on the staff. Why not ask them for support? Maybe in preparing your teaching resources, you can ask them to maybe give you some names in the Ewe language that you can use in preparing your teaching resources, so that the Ewe learners in the classroom will feel that they also belong to the class. So this is just what.
Okay, thank you. I think we've had a very fruitful discussion that has touched on where we are, why it matters, who is affected, and where do we now get to? How do we move on? Where do we go from here? So we will put a hold on our discussions and open the floor. Yeah, for questions, contributions, and more suggestions from the audience. Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Slip. I think they deserve a round of applause. So this is the open forum segment. And so if you have any contribution, you have any questions, this is the time to do so. Our brothers and sisters who are joining us via Zoom, you can also join. I see Zoom is already busy. And people are asking questions and they are getting answers via Zoom and all that. Can we get a microphone around? Just put up your hand. Yes. I see a hand. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share a little experience from our school, the University Primary School. I think all the discussants, what they've mentioned, also permeates what we do. In our school, because the learners are coming from various backgrounds, from various languages and tribes, the language policy that we experience, the NALAP, using the local language from the early stages to, let's say, class 3, we have adopted a different one. In the sense that when a child comes to the school, irrespective of the background, we help the child. The lesson is done in English. But the Fanti or the local language is taught as a language. So to build them up, so we blend them. In a class, a teacher is asked to make sure that a child benefits from the lesson. So you have to also find a means of blending the language. But the policy, as we pertain, we try to adapt the languages. So the L1 is taught as a language, whilst English is used as a medium of instruction because of the system we have here. Because all manner of people from various ethnic backgrounds are in the school. And some don't speak even English in their homes. And in that case, when they come, whether your background is Fanti, is Dagare, is Ewe, we all start with the English, and the Fanti is taught as a subject. Here, we use the Fanti because it is a dominant language in the environment we find ourselves. And so, our approach, we only try to suggest to parents that they should encourage their learners to do well. Because most of their learners from various backgrounds, their major challenge is the Fanti. Some of the learners who do so well in all the subjects, and when it comes to Fanti, they are found wanting. And in such case, when you talk to the child, so my friend says Fanti, we won't find that thing, you won't use it for anything. And when it happens like that, it becomes disheartening for the teacher, because the teacher is supposed to enlighten you. And when parents are also throwing that weight behind the child, it makes the teaching and appreciation of the language very difficult. So if I have a word, what I will say to parents is that let's allow the learners to explore in every language they are exposed to, because it helps in development. It also helps in socialization. So this language policy, I believe we have to adjust to it. We know our situation let's accept it. Because now if we want to select a language that we want to use as Ghanaians, there will be a fight. But gradually, if we accept the situation in which we are and continue to develop, the Fantis will want to push their weight with the Fanti. Everybody do what you like best or where you are coming from. Let's promote our cultural identity. And at the same time, we grow together as Ghanaians. And I think that will help us. That is my personal view, and this is not from the school and from any policy. But our policy that we use, L1 is taught as a language. English is used as medium of instruction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Francis Kwekucheme, the 10 headmaster for the University Basic School. Yes. Let's keep the questions simple. I think we can make do with one question at a time.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, Doctor, I do mention that the knowledge is inculcated in students. It's meant to last for a lifetime and not just to help them pass their examination. But in UCC here, it's very important for you to get good grades if you want to succeed. So my question is, how do you handle continuous assessment when pupils express brilliant ideas in local language but struggle to write them in correct English syntax?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll note that down. We'll pick another. I see a gentleman in a brown shirt, if I am not colorblind. Okay.
Thank you very much. Dr. Antipate is gone. I would have probably asked him to make a clarification on where he was so much emphatic about some students or children picking their L1 from the school. Then that, where lies the acquisition of language, that's the cooing, the babbling, and the telegraphic stage? What do the children or infants acquire? Then, my recommendation, probably, or suggestion to the NACA officer around.
The board chair?
Yeah. At the College of Education level, you realize that there's a big gap in a sense that those students who are coming from SHS are not offering Fanti as or Ghan language as core, but at the college, it is a core subject. So you realize that it is only those who offered it as electives. Some cannot write it at all, but they are supposed to learn it and go and teach. If that gap could be bridged, then I think something needs to be done at the SHS with Ghan language.
Thank you very much.
Not that alone. Let's look at this. Postings of teachers, please. It's very, very paramount. We post our teachers, as we say, without looking at their background. And with a 4-year B.Ed program, the vision and the mission does not align to that. I'm from the College of Education. That's why I'm so emphatic. The vision and the mission is not aligned to that. Teachers are supposed to post it looking at their background, where they are coming from, so that they will not be posted. You pick somebody from the front land to the northern, and he gets there, he is alien. He cannot even speak the L1 there. How would he or she support the children over there? That needs to be ruled out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I see a lady there. Let's ensure some gender parity.
Okay. I also want to add something small to what he just said.
I'm glad it's going to be small.
I used to teach at the basic school, and what I realized was that as a class teacher, you are expected to teach all the subjects in that class. And some of the teachers, they themselves, they are not able to read and write in English, and you expect such teacher to teach Fanti. How then will he or she be able to teach it? So I think that with a public school, at least for Fanti, teachers who are trained in that subject should be made available in our basic school so that they will help teachers, class teachers who are not able to teach those native languages. I think it will help.
Okay. You want to ask a question? Yes, go ahead.
It's a submission.
It's a submission.
Yes.
Okay, hold on to the submission and let's address these questions that have been asked. I want to begin with you, sir.
Sir was talking about the fact that Dr. Antipati was saying some students use English as their L1. So what about babbling and those things? Yeah.
They start picking it up in school.
Was that not there?
From school.
Yes. And what about the so right from the home, the child begin to acquire language. So those of us in languages, you know that when it comes to second language acquisition, when you take Christian's theory, Stephen Christian came out with 5 theories that has 5 a theory that has 5 hypotheses. And he spoke about acquisition learning hypothesis, where he said language acquisition start from the house. Then formally we learn language in school. So at that level, the babbling and all those things are culturally conditioned based on the culture of the parent. You can't tell me that a child language, someone who is born to an English parent, those context within which those babbling and all those things, cooing comes, is the same as what will happen in an Akan culture. So language, as we know, starts from the house. Acquisition starts from the house. But formally, we learn language in school. So that idea of people pick their first language from school is not entirely true. Then our brother also made mention of the fact that on campus, if you learn using the L1 in exams, you are being asked to write in English. So how would a student be able to cope with this? Right from the first day you entered university campus, you know that you'll be writing your papers in English language. The L1 is there to help you, support you to understand what you are being taught. So that becomes a language that will help you in understanding what you are being taught. But make conscious effort to learn the English language, because whether you like it or not, you are never going to be assessed in the L1. You will be assessed in the English language. So you start right from level 100, you start polishing your language. Some of us, we did that. After senior high school, we started reading a lot of storybooks to improve upon our language. So once you know you have deficiency, you have to work on that.
Thank you. May I touch briefly on the question on the babbling? Now, when at the early stages of language acquisition, whatever language the child hears around him or her is the language that the child will pick. So depending on what language the child hears and grows into, that becomes the child's L1. I don't know your question. I thought that you wanted to find out why some learners have English as their L1, because that was what I heard Dr. Pate say. But then, whatever language you hear around you when you are born, that is the language you grow into, and that becomes your L1. Now, on the posting, though I am not the NACA boss, but then I know that GES does the postings. But then when the teachers get to the various schools, it is the head teachers that place those teachers in the classrooms. So it is the duty of the head teacher to place the teacher in a classroom where the teacher can function and function well. So if the teacher that has been posted to the school is not a language speaker of the area where the school is located, then it is the duty of the head teacher to do a reshuffling and send that teacher to an upper primary class or a JHS class, so that the teacher can function well over there. And even there, we know that there will be some need for some assistance, because not all the learners can understand English very well. And so the teacher will also need some assistance to be able to function well, even at the upper primary class or the JHS class. And then the lady also asked the question on the teaching of Fanti, that a teacher is placed in the classroom to teach all subjects. Yeah, that is what we see all around us. But the duty of the head teacher is to do that internal arrangement so that the teacher who cannot speak Fanti, who has been placed in the school in the Fanti zone but cannot speak Fanti, when it gets to the teaching of Fanti, another teacher will come to that class to teach the Fanti, whilst that teacher moves to another class to teach another subject. I have seen this in many schools. When it gets to Fanti teaching, there's a swap. A teacher comes to that class to teach the Fanti, while that teacher in that class moves. So it is the duty of the head teachers. So I think that the head teachers need to have a conversation about how to place teachers in their schools, and things will work better than they are now. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Yes. Prof would want to make some.
Okay. Thanks so much. Doc was trying to make a very important distinction between L1 and mother tongue. Mother tongue is naturalistic. What is it that your parents speak? But sometimes these days, some people, their mother tongue is Twi, but they are L1. The language that they encounter is English. So the two are not all the time equal. And so if the child hears English first, he will babble in English. So the child doesn't go to school to learn an L1. He will go to learn the Ghanaian language. But that child's L1 is the English that he has begun. But you see, it's important also to understand that when it comes to transition from those who can learn English Twi well or ever well, but can't translate it to English, most of that is attitude. In that same class, some have paid attention to the English things, have read the English books at home. Let us say you don't even have any readers. You have your comprehension, you have your textbook. If the child continues to read and tries to practice, the child will get over it. Prof told you about that. When she came, she couldn't speak. Look at how she was rattling. It's not by possession, it's by learning. So one thing we have to do is to encourage people so that they don't say, "Medium in Tibrofo." Nobody was born in Brofo. We learned. Encourage them. When you want to form one, those days, we all want to form one French school to learn French. What made some people be very good in French? They learned, they were serious, they got interested, and they learned. If anybody had decided to learn, they will get at least a good understanding of French. It's a choice. So we have to encourage people to do that. And you see, and to add to what Doc was saying, head teachers quite often are thinking about themselves as managers of the teachers, not as people who ensure effective teaching and learning. Now, in this case, the teachers and the books and everything we have are only resources. They're human resources towards the attainment of the objectives of the school, to get people to get the knowledge, to get the skill, to get the proficiency. That is it. But the head teachers are only interested in putting people here. Okoha, you are punished, so you move and go to KG. Not because you are effective, because I want to show you where true power lies. It's going to be important for us going on to get some kind of indexes to let the head teachers go through all this to see that's what I have to do, and to measure what they do, to see, are you posting people effectively? And then those teachers who can teach Fanti, to be given some remedial programs to be able to, because you can't always be there for others to come and teach Fanti. By some time, you'll be able to do something, because you may not live in that school forever. What happens if you are transferred? So I think these are many things. We can't solve the problems here. But I just think that, as Prof was saying, if we get together with our hearts and minds to get somewhere together, we'll get there. Thanks so much.
Prof, I'm glad you're up, because I have a few questions for you. One of our online participants from China is asking a few questions. And says that the lecture highlights that many teachers lack proficiency in local languages and translanguaging skills. If teachers are the primary implementers of language policy, does advocating for L1-based instruction without first addressing the teacher capacity gap create a policy practice chasm? What would a teacher first language policy look like? And that is the first bit.
What would a teacher first?
What would a teacher first language policy look like?
Okay, we are not going to begin life. Life is already in transition. So we can't stop and say, let's train the teacher first before the teacher goes to teach. They're going to teach anyway. Remedial things are important. And that's why in what I presented, we talked about immediate steps, even before the short, immediate steps. How do we get the teacher skills in order? How do we get them the translanguaging skills? How do we know where to post them? All these immediate ones that we should do. How do we decide that, okay, let's go to College of Education and make sure that L1 is taught very importantly. How do we ensure that Ghanaian languages has become a compulsory subject at the SHS level? These are immediate things we should do. So we understand, but we can't stop learning. So, okay, for 1 year, nobody's learning. Let's train the teachers first before we continue. We'll do the two side by side. Okay.
Maybe the last one says that the lecture suggests prioritizing Akan, Ga, and other high population local languages for material development. His question is, what criteria should govern the selection of demographic size, vitality, political will, existing literary tradition, and what are the ethical implications of state-sponsored choosing among local languages? And does this risk further marginalizing smaller language communities?
Okay, thanks so much. That's a very important question. But if you remember, we said that there's a language and there's a culture, and that the language should have been developed. So all these are factors. And we also said that let the chiefs play an important part. No government will say, I've chosen one selected for you. It's the people who will sit down, engage and see, go to Volta region. There are many other, beyond Ewe, there are several other ethnic groupings. But almost each of them try to speak Ewe. People may be in some parts of Volta region who are Gwan people, but all of them speak some Ewe. And that's how come we can agree to say that, okay, then let's make Ewe a regional language. Or let's make, within the Volta region, let's have a zonal language and say the people around Central Kofi and Buem and Yaw Sekyi, yours will be English, but yours will be this. Let's come to Central region. For those who are around Winneba, maybe yours will be a Futu. For those who are around Denchira, Central region, Dunkwa area and Asen, yours will be Central Chi. I prefer to call it Central Chi more than Asante Chi, because the Asen and the Achem and the Asante, they'll speak about the same thing. So we can zone them based on actual understanding and objectivity, not politics. And in doing so, we also talked about the fact that can we have a local language also developed? So I am saying in Winneba, I have a Futu, but I have my local language as Fanti. I am in Central Kofi, so I have Ewe as my regional language, but I'm also studying my own language. But this happens only when all of us have gotten the idea that let's promote the Ghanaian languages. Let them feel important. Let some people get to position because they know the Ghanaian language. But sometimes let somebody become principal. One factor is that he or she knows Ghanaian languages well. Let's do things that to make people feel that I should know. Let's get parents to understand that my child may not do well when the child goes to KG. So let him start speaking the language with the child in the house. Some advocacy, some encouragement will help so that it will take away these other factors.
Thank you very much, Prof. Or if you want to clap, you can do so. We'll be picking the final batch. So let me see by hand if you have a question. I think we can do about 3 or 4. So I have 1 here, 2, and then 3. Thank you. But just before that, for Dr. Mensah and Dr. Afiba Toto, one of our Zoomers is asking that can the increased use of Ghanaian language in schools unintentionally disadvantage learners in higher education and the global job market where English dominates? So you will note that down whilst we add that to the 3. Yes.
Please, I wanted to talk about the class allocation, and that has been answered.
That has been. Thank you very much. There's a hand here. The fine gentleman in is that a blue suit, navy?
All right. Thank you very much. The keynote speaker spoke about the way forward, and I just want to find out through the NACA board chair whether they are considering the cartoons in our local language, because students, actually learners, I mean, they're interested in learning the cartoons. So most of the L2, that is the English language, they grasp it from the cartoons. So going forward, is there a proposal that the government should consider, introducing the cartoons in our L1? I think that will help if you consider that way. Thank you.
I think the NACA board chair will note that down. There's a hand there, over there. A cartoon like Akwala Ukwahi. Meko Library, isn't it?
Thank you very much. My question is, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Pell gave us an assignment to critique the language and education policy. I searched and searched. I couldn't find a single document that is labeled the language and education policy. We have just been talking about language and education policy, but where is the document that specifically outlines the language in education policy that will be used? What are the implementation strategies? What are the materials that are going to be used? What we may find, like we have seen the FCUBE policy document, the free education policy document, but where is the language in education policy? We may find just a few paragraphs in NALAP or a few, clauses in the 1951 Acceleration Development Plan. But making reference to the framework Prof provided, don't you think that the lack of a stable policy document backed by legislation is what is leading to this fluctuation? This government comes and he changes this policy. We will now begin from this place. Just a few weeks ago, the Minister of Education will just mention that, Ghanaian language is now going to be compulsory in the basic school. Don't you think, and I'm referring this to Prof, don't you think that the lack of a stable policy document backed by legislation is what is leading to all these arguments about the use of the mother tongue in the classroom? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe the very last one. Unfortunately, I can only pick one more.
Okay, so mine is a kind of suggestion. I think we should have an AI course in the various colleges, especially the College of Education Studies, for we the teachers to know how to navigate using AI in our daily teachings. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. So, Prof. Okay, so somebody's been given some leverage. The very last one before Prof comes in. The gentleman in, I think, wine.
Okay, my question is, initiatives has been put in place to motivate people who are studying English language. So if you don't want our Ghana languages to die, what are the initiatives that you are putting in place to keep them alive?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, that will be all, and we'll allow Prof to address the question that was directed to him.
Okay, thanks so much. From the last one, how do we make it not die? The first thing is that the people believe in the language, believe in the identity and the knowledge that the language holds. I'm Akan, I'm Fanti, I'm Chi. It gives joy to my heart that I'm speaking Fanti or I'm speaking Bono. And so what's all we have to do first? Let the people know in their hearts and minds how important and necessary it is for them to speak their language. Let the ever person be glad speaking ever first. Let the Ghan person be. Let the person who teaches learning Akan not say I'm doing accounting or I'm doing language. Every language are language. We should find ways of letting people know consciously and as a pride, and we can do that. The second one is we talked about get materials, get these things published. We can put some short stories online. People will pick them. We can also print some, but we can engage churches to begin to do these things. Print them. Get cartoons and those games and other things in local languages. Because the children will be happy looking at those ones. They'll pick the language that is used in those cartoons. They'll pick them. So we just have to be conscious. Once we are conscious, printing will be difficult. Listen, there are many rich people, many organizations. If we see them with these things, want to publish these books for this language, they will help you to do so. But the consciousness is what is important first. The other question was asked was in respect of the
if we are not going to unintentionally disadvantage those who use the Ghanaian language, because the market is already an English prone market.
Yeah, and that's why there is the short term, immediate term, short term, and medium to long term. Now, you see, we may solve our initial problems now. Ban English, ban Ghanaian languages, use English and go. But it means that in the next 20 years, Ever will be almost dead. And so will Ghana, and so will be Ekwapim, and so will be Gurune. Because let me tell you, our children now don't understand the Ghana and the Chi and the Ever that we understand. If we are not careful looking at the future and the century beyond now, we can take a lazy decision, or let's be comfortable now and suffer as a nation, as a people in the future. You see, so that's important thing to do. And we take a short term now to address the situations now and then go ahead. There's another question in respect of language policy, yes.
Yeah, policy.
The policies, as I said, many of the policies are by announcements. I've announced that we have changed from to English, and that's all. How you get it done, no. But the problem is not because it's just an announcement. It's because it is not seen as a national issue, a national need. It can be by legislation. Legislation that made SHS 3 years, made it 4 years, legislation, and made it 3 years again, legislation. It can change. The president is saying that legislation may change parliamentary tenure from 4 to 5. It's legislation. But they do so out of comfort, knowing that nothing will happen to them. So if the politician knows that if I don't pass LGBT law and follow it through, I have a problem, he will leave it. If he knows that if I don't work with against Galamsey, it will be a problem for me, he will leave it. And so what is important is when the nation's mind is built and firmed on the fact that, Papa, you have to do it, then he will not do the legislation. Otherwise, he can change with power, with majority in parliament, he can change anything. So not the law, but the mind of the people. Sovereignty lies in the people. And their mind, therefore, is the authority that drives power and legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. So the gentleman who asked the question about motivation or some sort of a support for students who are studying Ghanaian language. I know of one such thing I could share with you. Unfortunately, it is only in the Akan, but we could also search. Once we have noted one for Akan, there could be some for other languages. Just go on to LinkedIn. You will find a scholarship package for students who are studying Akan at the tertiary level. It is Akan Literacy Development Foundation. Akan Literacy Development Foundation. You can get support, tuition support, accommodation where applicable, learning materials, and also I think get some stipend if you are an Akan student at the tertiary level. So just go on LinkedIn, search for Akan Literacy Development Foundation, and you could get be on the way of getting some sort of a support for yourself in your studies. Thank you.
Adding to that, there's one doctor at the Department of English, Dr. Winneba. He had studied Dagari, and the kind of grants he gets within a year, you'll be surprised. The foreigners, the whites, are no more interested in studies in English language again, because everything has been done. So they are now exploring other languages that are not within their domain. So when you are studying anything about our local languages and you are interested, you better do it well, because that's where the scholarships are coming from now. Okay. Then the brother who asked the question whether when we emphasize so much on the L1, we are not disadvantaging students for higher education and the job market. What I would say to that is that Chinese or the China people, they use their language for education and everything. Then when they had established themselves, they went into technology and they are sending their products to us. They realized at a point in time that the manual that they attach to their document, their product, when they come, we are unable to read those manuals. So I wouldn't be comfortable buying a Chinese product. So it has forced them to learn the English language. And now, when they write the manual to their product, it's both in Chinese and English. So I don't think we learning our local language will be a disadvantage. As Prof said, it's all about being conscious about it and the effort we put into it.
I think I will speak to the gentleman who asked the questions about cartoons in English. I think that you who asked the question could develop cartoons in your local language, share within your community, and I'm sure that the children will enjoy watching it. And then you can now open up and then share outside your community. And so we all need to maybe think about this, about developing AI content in our various languages. If students can write storybooks in their local languages, then they can develop AI content in their local languages as well. So this one, it says for us to do, we have to think about doing a thing like that and then making it public. And then I'm sure that Ghanaian children will enjoy watching our cartoons and then downloading AI content for studies in our local language.
Right, thank you. I guess Prof would want to add.
Yeah, thanks so much. Doc, that's a very, very important point. It begins from you and I. But if we decided, for instance, that for our long essay project, a person is supposed to design so many things in, you get me, so many of these contents, and write something about it, and that's your project. You may have many of the people we have who are savvy in IT writing their projects in it. It doesn't always have to be writing. It's a project. They can construct all these cartoons and put them there. We can get people who are doing national service in the universities and the departments, whose duty, additional duty will be to produce these things. Now, when we have done so, it becomes the eye-opener for several people to do it. But I think those of us who know do it. Let some of the students take it as their projects in class and also at the end of the academic year. Let social service people try and do these things. Once we begin, you see how the others will take over this from our hands. But it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Slip and team will wrap it up, and we'll get the high table back. And I know that the board chair for NACA will put in a word or two.
Okay, thank you. I've enjoyed the discussion. I hope you have taken a lot of lessons. One thing I am happy about is that in line with the guest speaker's presentation, he said that we need to develop technical knowledge and competencies to grow our language. And I'm happy he has taken the pace by developing an encyclopedic dictionary for names. Then I asked myself, what am I going to do next? Well, let me ask you too. What are you going to do next? He has given a beautiful suggestion. The language students in here, you can take up that project as I go and meditate on what myself and Dr. Mensah and Dr. Toto can do. If you come up with something, let us know. You are also invited to join if you find something. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I think we can do it better for them. Thank you very much. Dr. Gertrude Afiba Toto. Thank you, Dr. Alex Adobao Bansa, and our moderator for the day, Dr. Dorcas Pearl Slip. Oh, another round of applause for them. Whilst I invite the chairperson back on stage, Prof, and the team, we invite you back on stage. And remember that a lot has been said today. We know that English is hitting our children everywhere they find themselves. We have to be intentional about this. And the key thing is that if we are communicating, one thing we should take into cognizance as what language are we indeed communicating in. I would like to invite the board chair for NACA to put in a word briefly, and the vice dean for the faculty of, Reverend Martin, Dr. Martin would give us a vote of thanks and then maybe pray for us. We haven't gotten there. I invite the NACA board chair to put in a word before the closing remarks.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's been exciting sitting and listening to the discussion. One thing that came to mind, listening to all the beautiful talk, has to do with the politics of language. While we're talking, I was on social media and I saw a story where the Mole Dagbane group went to meet my Director General to discuss. In fact, he had mentioned it to me some time back in our discussion, where they had a challenge that in writing the history, the writers, in the attempt to discuss the history, try to subjugate their language. And the politics of language is serious. And so while we talk about the L1, L2, one begin to ask which, and this goes to the writers, and many of you here are writers. You write the textbooks, and then in writing about the history of a group, you tend to subjugate one group. And when the owners of that language or the ethnic group come to that knowledge, then they rise up. And so it's important that as we write, we are true to the fact. From NACA's point of view, I know that for the writers and for the textbooks, we are open. In fact, beyond the curriculum, as we speak, and this will be a response to Dr. Mensah, when he made a point that in writing the curriculum, we should engage the teachers. In fact, immediately he said so, I went on to check the people who are writing. We are reviewing the curriculum from KG to Primary 6 now. I went through the list and I realized that there are a lot of people in the SHS and GHS who are on the panel writing the curriculum. And so your point is I'm sure my people might have heard your voice before they constituted the panel to ensure that we get the practitioners on board, and they are. A lot of them are part of the panel writing there. But I want to make the point that supplementary readers are important in the curriculum, and many of you do write it. If you write, bring them, we'll go through them, and if we find them worthy of our children reading them, they will be approved. And if you're having any challenge, that is why we are here. You can reach to me, and I will lead you to my people, and they will see to whatever you are writing. The important thing is that you write according to the curriculum. One thing we are fighting strongly, and it came up recently, it has to do with the language, subtle use of language. And this also ties in with the cartoon. You know, the LGBT advocates, they know that one way to get the message to our children is through cartoon. And so they will put them in a subtle way in the cartoon. So in a cartoon, you see two females playing Love Matters in a cartoon. You will think it is a mere cartoon. These are children. Before you know, your daughters, our sons are watching this cartoon. So it's the language, the picture are important as far as NACA is concerned. You can bring them as far as they are supplementary, they fall within our domain. Even if they are AI tools, they fall within the domain of NACA to certify them. If we go through them, we certify them, and we find them to be worthy of consumption by our children, they will be approved. We don't want the situation where foreign influences will come in and then subtle things that are against our family values will be brought in. And so for me, as we talk about language, it's important that we come to appreciation that every language is important. And as Ghanaians, we should not elevate one language above the other. Some languages are dying. I mean, Prof talked about the Futu. A Futu seems, you go to Winneba and you won't find 5 people from Winneba, indigenous people from Winneba, speaking the Futu language. They are all speaking Fanti. So this subject like this are important that we elevate them, we encourage them so they don't completely die away. I want to thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. People, we are almost wrapping up this whole very important ceremony. I would like to invite the chairperson for the occasion, Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboa, to give us her closing remarks. I believe we can do it better for her.
Thank you very much. We've taken in so much, and I don't want to attempt summarizing everything, but a few takeaways. The fact that language is a foundation for learning, and one thing I learned today is about the functionality of the language. After learning in your English language, in your local language, and everything, how do you demonstrate or exhibit functionality? How do you use it? And how do you become useful as far as the language is concerned? We've heard so much about language policy. We've learned about the ideal situation, and we know the topic itself talks about the ideal and the realities. So the ideal situation, we should, and that is through the framework. We need to identify a known language and develop it. There should be a people and a culture that will carry that. There must be learners that will learn that language and keep it going, for posterity. There should be curriculum and its content, educational materials, teachers and cultural factors. There are challenges. There are challenges with the policy, as we've heard, policies coming and going without permanency. And in terms of the, let me go through quickly because you've heard a lot of these things I'm saying. So in terms of the ideal situation, the framework tells us enough of what must be there as a condition for the discussion we have had. But the realities are that we, all of us, prefer that our children speak English. So in our homes, our mother tongue appears to be changing to English. And our L1 is also English. So then, when they go to school, there are children who are not able to communicate with even the parents who cannot speak. Did I say parents? Family members from the village who cannot speak English. They come to visit you and you are not able to communicate with them. That is the reality. It is because we prefer the second language or foreign language. Another reality is the fact that, and which the speaker called the academic reality, is the fact that we don't have teachers who can speak and are proficient in some of the local languages. So a teacher gets posted to a school where the majority language is Fanti, and that teacher is not a Fanti speaker. Another reality is the fact that in secondary schools, local language is not compulsory. And then when you come here and you want to be a teacher, and the condition is that you must know a local language and study it in university, then that big gap becomes a challenge. So there are so many things we heard about the realities in our schools, as well as the university. Let me move quickly to what we can do from here. What is all this talking going to end us? Where is it going to end us? Are we just talking and then move out of here and that is it? We go back to business as usual? Or we are going to take these discussions to another level? Which levels can we take them? For example, will we do a communique? So here, the dean, the vice dean, the faculty will have to think about what to do with all the discussion that has gone on, with the brilliant ideas that have been shared. What are we going to do with this public lecture? Are we going to have some further engagements with relevant stakeholders like GES? Are we going to go a step further to engage GES on the things we have heard? Are we going to have some engagement with principals of colleges of education and our own College of Education Studies? We are preparing teachers, and this language policy, this language and learning, language and functionality comes to us. What are we as a college going to do about it? These are the things I need us to think about as we go forward, so that it will not be, this program will not be an activity that is fulfilling righteousness, as if it is in our plan of work for the year, and we've done it. So we've done well. We've been able to organize a public lecture. I don't think that is how it will end. And on this note, I want to thank you sincerely for supporting this program, staying through to this time, and the contributions, the discussions, which were so rich. I want to thank you for your support, helping me to chair this program. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Prof. We will now invite the Dean for the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education to give us the vote of thanks. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, MC. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that it is ideal that before I do the vote of thanks, I ask you to clap for yourselves for being here today. Thank you very much. I think we will first want to thank God for such a program. In fact, in the morning, I saw a forecast that said that it's raining this morning, afternoon, and evening. And on my way, I was just hoping that all I said was, God, please, you let them come in. When they get in, it start raining, so they can't go. But fortunately for us, the rain has held still, and so we thank God for this day. Also, I want to thank guest speaker, Professor Yaw Sekyi-Baidoo. In fact, I have not met him, but when the discussions came up, I don't know how his name came to mind first. I don't know if it was divine, but also probably because Professor Affol's inaugural lecture, I was there, and he spoke so highly of you as you were mates here in the MPhil class, so it registered. So probably that's how come it came. But when my committee members contacted him, he willingly, immediately accepted to be here. Prof, we are very grateful. Thank you very much. Also, many thanks to Professor Christine Eduyebua, my own mother. We, as a college management board, when we meet, I am the youngest. Some time ago, I was the only senior lecturer there. And when things happen, I have to run to and say, I can't say. And now, when the provost asked her to represent him, she willingly accepted. Prof, we are very grateful. Thanks to also to our invited guests. I think I want to talk more about the NACA boss, Dr. Vincent Asanfo. In fact, last year, the maiden public lecture, he was there, and he sat through the whole lecture as he has done today. And so I am very grateful. The faculty is very grateful to you, Prof, for your time. I think I also have to thank my HODs, my Vice Dean. He was here earlier on. He's a very busy man, so he's left. And I want to thank my HODs as well. Reverend Dr. Martin Owusu for the support. Dr. Antonio Kwesio, so I nearly gave him a reverend title. Also want to thank the discussants who also agreed to be here, Dr. Alexa Doba-Banza, Dr. Toto, and then Dr. Antepati online. Thank you very much for coming. I didn't invite him, but he was here. The acting head of the University Basic School. Did I get it right? Doc, thank you very much for coming. Yeah, thank you very much. Prof. Chair, I have to thank my, do I call it a committee? Yes, a committee. Although I'm the chair, but headed by the faculty officer, Mrs. Araba Duku Coldman. She did a very great job. Thank you very much, faculty officer. And also my administrator, Madam Hannah Kukua Ribeiro. Yeah, thank you very much. Mami Esi is here from the faculty. Mami Esi, are you here? Okay. Mr. Charles Alaita is also here from the faculty, our faculty driver. He's done so well. Thank you very much. Two national service persons, Rosalind and Gloria. Where are they? Okay, and their mama Mensah. 4:30 Monamu Tupunum. Okay, but as I said, I mentioned the faculty officer as the one who stood in for me as chair of the committee, but there are other committee members who did so well. You saw one, Mrs. Dr. Spell Slip is a member of the committee. Thank you very much. Dr. Gabriel Agyei. People don't know Danny, but if you say Kaka, people know. Say Kaka. Yeah. Thank you very much. Dr. Edmond Agomeda. Thank you very much. And is there anybody I've left out? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, and also the support from all faculty members. In fact, they've been supportive, sharing, publishing the news, and they are here. Dr. Prince Yabu Asari, Dr. Francis Debris. Let's see you, faculty members. And more importantly, once an acting dean. Yeah, Dr. Letitia Bosu. Yes. I see Dr. Fiagbe, Kofi Fiagbe also there. And who else? If I've missed you, please forgive. Oh, Dr. Andre is also here. Thank you very much. And all my PhD students and MPhil students, as well as my undergraduate students who I lured here with Max. Yeah. Thank you for coming. And as the chairperson said, at the end of the day, what is going to happen? Are we just talking and leaving? Is it just that we've had a public lecture, so we have done some? No. And so today we brought some people I call repertoires. Emmanuel, what's the name? Emmanuel Boateng, MPhil, Arts Education, English major. Jennifer Anderson, MPhil, Arts Education, English major. And I think the two of them. So whatever we have said here, all the questions, all the answers, they've noted everything. We intend to put together a white paper, maybe not a white paper, from the UCC, maybe a blue paper, right? And send to the GES and also the Ministry of Education that this is the event, these are the issues that came up for their consideration. So it won't end here. We're going to continue. Your college management too. Yes, I'll bring it there, otherwise I'll be fired. But going forward, I think as Prof was talking, Dr. Neshnamiche, Ghanaian language lecturer, was here. We were having a discussion, and there were a lot of research conceptualizations that were coming up. So I want to promise the guest speaker that the issues raised here, he will see very soon some papers coming out, not only for promotion, but also to make sure that we affect the society that we are dealing with. So that said and done, I want to thank everybody. The media team, thank you very much. ATL, TVUCC, we are live on YouTube. Other radio stations are here. I see TV3, I see Unia, I see ABN, I see Joy News as well. So thank you all, the cameramen. My colleagues from DPA, documentation, thank you very much also for coming. And as Prof has said, now we will be promoting our local language. So, Akbe, you are don medamasi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Shall we have the closing prayer? And it will be delivered by Reverend Dr. Martin Owusu.
Shall we be on our feet as we pray? And before we pray, I want you to note that my wife is also here. Nana Akusia. Nana Akusia Isuman is also there. And my son, Reverend Asante Frimpong, is also here. Shall we pray? And so, Lord, we thank you for this beautiful program. It's a success to your glory. Father, as we live here, continue to order our steps. Let your presence be with us. Let this whole day be a day of blessing. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ have we prayed. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all. Amen.
Thank you very much. And this is where we bring this public lecture to an end. We'll have some photography session. Thank you all very much for coming. My name is always Eugene Nana Kweku in Chibwesiako. Have a beautiful afternoon. Bye-bye.